Welcome to the debrief. Now, it might look a little bit different because I'm not in the studio. That's right, I'm still in London. Now, from the thumbnail, from the title, and if you've come over from Helena Stream, you'll know why I was in London. Yes, I was on GB News again, trying to fight the good fight. And what we're going to do, same as last time, is we're going to do a review of my performance and Mike Parry's, and we're going to critique it. And I say we because it's not just me. I am joined by Lewis Aaron.
Hello, hello, hello.
How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. We're not supposed to look at the camera.
Are we can look at the camera. Let's
I'm
engage
joking.
our lovely audience.
I'm joking. I'm all right. It's been an interesting... Is it Saturday today?
Of course.
It is Saturday.
Yes, it's Saturday.
Yeah, it's been an interesting Saturday. We went to the GB News studio, went to some... we went to the back end of the protests that were going on today. Multiple protests going on in London. It was very interesting. It's been a lovely day. It's been a lovely day.
Yeah, so there was a women's march on. We both wanted to attend it, but I think by the time we got out of there, and there was loads of delays in London. By the time we got there, we saw some of the Palestine rally. So we were present, but not quite involved. We want to be more involved, but, that's London for you. It's London, baby.
Good old London. All these bloody people coming to London, causing trouble. No, it was interesting though, because it is actually just nice to see, again, just like all the protesters, like a ceasefire deal has been apparently signed, but people are still out there fighting because they know it's not over, right? It's not something that is going to be over anytime soon. Like, there might be some peace for the meantime, but, there's still so much more things that are going to be happening in that region that Israel are going to be doing, which is far from anything peaceful.
Yeah, quite right. But the agenda for today is
tangent.
Tangent.
It is GBBs.
I mean, I we can probably pull up some comments before we do so. I mean, this is really weird because by the way, I thought Lewis was hosting today, and I looked at the timetable. It was me. Whoops. So I'm kind of like producing and doing the hosting. This feels very much like old school streaming, kind of similar to the election night. We did a 12-hour election coverage. 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. That was weird, wonderful, fantastic. Let's see what we have so far. I'm sure it's only just started, so there's not going to be much comments at the moment. Border Prince. The music started and I jumped. Loads of people say that because it's silent and then boom.
I think maybe we should change that to like what's the correct term? It's like a gradient intro, like a slow intro, like one that gets, I don't know.
You don't like my choice of music. I get it.
We can just ease it in.
Well, this is nice from Justin. Justin VR, Turn Left, is doing amazing work. Well done, everyone involved. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. It's a very lovely comment. Where's Jim Speak? There he is. Pajama party. I'm actually wearing jeans. I was going to put some joggers on, but I didn't actually put any on, did I? And I've got my shirt from earlier, but I've thrown a hoodie over. Hey, Curtis, I was not sure about you appearing on GB News, Curtis, but you did a great job. Yeah, that's understandable. I'm sure we could probably have that conversation again, but... let's get me on camera quickly. We've had extensive conversations within Turn Left about whether we should do it or not. Basically, our policy is it's an individual choice. If you want to do it, go do it. No one's pressurized, of course, to do it. But we also respect other people's point of view. There are many leftists who think it's a great idea. There are many leftists who don't think it's a good idea, and all opinions are valid. But I mean, me personally, I want to just engage with anyone and take on any right-wing idiot that I can find. But thank you, Jacqueline, anyway. Over from Dominic Jones, over from Helena Stream. Yes, we love Helena, and I would say subscribe, but you already do, don't you? It's a vibe. Oh, thank you so much, Leslie Watts, a £5 super chat. I hope they paid you well because it's a political madhouse. Personally, I don't think it's worth it, but have at it. Yeah, no, fair enough again. To be honest, the amount they pay you is probably enough to cover the train. And Flow Snake, by the way, Flow Snake, responding to what you said about audio stuff before, I saw your comment. Yeah, it's a streaming issue because whenever I make videos on recording, there's no audio issues. So yeah, it's a definite streaming thing. But no, don't change the music. Turn left. Yeah, it can catch you by surprise, but it's good. Anyway, people didn't come here to chat to listen to me talk about audio and streaming stuff. People came to either laugh at me or praise me, or a bit of both, when taking on Mike Parry.
Mike Parry.
Now, Mike Parry, I always get him and Mike Graham mixed up because Mike Graham was the guy who thought you could grow concrete. They are very similar demeanour, very you know, ah, rah, rah, rah.
I'm not even using this to like, because I don't want to insult somebody that you sat across from today and had a chat with, but it kind of reminds me some of the rhetoric of, you know, some type of stuff you would see on Facebook. Like, I don't know, it reminds me of like, you know, those posts that somebody might reshare, like things that might actually sound good to a lot of people out loud, but it's stuff that sounds good, but I want to have nuanced conversations. I want to have like
sure.
I want to have like the tough conversations. You know, it's easy for Mike to turn around and say something, you know, along the lines of, I'm trying to think of what he said now. You know, just about the farmers or these people are desperate. These people are, you know, they need all this help. And of course, we want to support farmers as much as we can.
Yeah, damn straight.
But I feel like it is still like almost like populist rhetoric. And the reality is that there are a lot of farmers out there who do very well for themselves, especially the landowners.
Border Prince with a £5 super chat. Thanks for the content. You're a legend. Thank you so much. Before we play our first clip, I just want to say, like, please critique me as much as you can in this because it's very helpful. What I will say is it is like when you're on TV and you're debating in like a 5-minute segment, it's hard. Like, I will critique myself watching this, but there'll be many of you saying, why didn't you say this? Why didn't you say that? Fair comments, but it is difficult when you're, first of all, your opponent, half the time they're just making crap up, but also the host comes in and cuts you off. So yeah, I didn't get all the talking points I wanted to, but you know, I tried my best and I hope it was good enough.
I think it's worth revealing as well that I was a little worried at first, only because we were going to be kind of late, and that was because of Sadiq Khan and the TFL. No, we had some delays on the tube getting there, and I was worried. I didn't say this to Curtis because, you know, you got to amp them up before they go in, but I was worried that you might have been flustered. I really thought that. I thought as soon as you were going to come on, you might have been a bit flustered because you literally rushed into the studio. They slammed a mic straight on you, give you some paperwork to quickly read through, and you've been put on TV. I thought you were going to be flustered. I thought you must have, like, when I saw you on camera, it was like, this guy's been chilling out. He's been sipping a cup of tea in the back. He was nice and chilled. I genuinely was so proud. I thought it was a really good performance.
I felt like I got done a bit dirty this time. Stupid news, isn't it? Because the first time I went on, I got a text at 8 a.m. saying these are the stories for today. You got like what 4 hours to prepare. This time I got a text at 20 to 10. I was like, fuck. Yes. Then we were late. I literally came shuffling into the studio and they handed me some papers. And on the papers were some of the stories, but then there was a story about Donald Tusk and Meghan Markle. I was like, well, no one told me about this. But I was like, if it's Meghan Markle, I'm going to say I don't care. But we didn't even get to those stories anyway. But anyway, let's play the first clip. Let's go into here. And
by the way, if you see me on my phone, it's because I'm reading comments. I'm not being rude.
If you don't mind reading the comments for me as well, that's really good. Are they in the same place, or do my eyes deceive me?
What?
I think Rachel was saying we're in the same. That's weird.
What was? I'm confused. What were we supposed to be doing?
I think Rachel said, "Are we together?" Right? Because usually we were on separate streams.
Oh yeah.
Like, this is IRL. It's not green screen.
I know.
Yeah.
No, I was going to make a rude joke.
Like, you always do that. Anyway,
I was going to say to any of the gays in the audience, it reminds me of like a Czech hunter type setup. Only the gays will get that.
Right, we've made people wait long enough. You're probably sick of us. Let's get on to the first clip. It is about the farmers' protest.
Founder of Turn Left Media. I love the way you do that. Curtis Daly.
Hello, how are you?
Hello.
And
good
hello,
to see you
how you
again.
doing?
You can do the thumbs up thing.
I'll do the thumbs up.
You can do thumbs up.
Well done.
We're both allowed to do the thumbs up. Okay, now, the reason I wanted to talk to the farmers today is obviously we've seen the recent protest up in Leicestershire where they were sort of in the tractors outside supermarkets trying to get them on board, which thankfully, you know, Asda and Morrison's are backing. But we're not hearing from the government on this at all, Mike. It's not going away. We've heard from Rob there that families are suffering.
Well, no, but you've heard from the government. And the government aren't going to change. They don't want to. They see farmers as rich landowners. God knows how, because most of the farmers I've known during my life work to live and live to work. They don't actually make any profit, but they're looking after the land in this country. 70% of the land in this country is not developed land, and a great percentage of that is farming land. and the farmers produce food and look after the land. They actually look after the green fields in this country. It's all very well to say, oh, well, you know, £1 million. Most farms are worth at least £1 million if you take into account the machinery that's there, that's needed, the investment, the fields, the worth of their land itself. And to say that they should pay tax on it, what they do is, and they have done this for centuries, not just generations, centuries, they hand it down to their children to keep running the farm. If they can't do that and they have to sell it and pay 20% tax, the land will probably go...
So, like, we actually talked about this because we prepared the night before, because even though, yes, we only got the topics in the morning, we kind of guessed, like, what the topics were going to be. Of course, we went through all the culture war stuff as well. Then we thought, oh, you know what, they love talking about the farmers. We talked about the inheritance tax the night before. I think it's fair to say that we should help farmers out and make sure that is a thriving industry, perhaps through subsidies, perhaps through even other forms of tax breaks in terms of maybe, you know, how they, you know, pay tax on machinery that it might need, you know, all those types of carve-outs. But I feel like this idea of inheritance tax, people are defending it so much in such an annoying way, when it's not the only way that we could be helping farmers. Do you know what I mean? There are so many other functions that we have, and so many other levers that we can pull to actually help the industry, help the farmers, and make sure that we're, you know, self-sufficient, all that type of stuff, making lots of food, without... It has to be inheritance tax. That doesn't really help them. I'm sorry. This idea that you can just pass on potentially millions and millions of pounds with absolutely no guarantee that the people that it's passed on to are even going to keep it. Like, what's the guarantee? What's the guarantee that someone's going to sell on their farm and then they're just going to sell it onto somebody else with the reduced inheritance tax? It just doesn't make any sense. There's so many other ways that we can...
I mean, I
help
don't know who
farmers.
made this point. I think it was Cog, as we were preparing for the show.
Yeah.
He was saying, all right, you say that farm workers produce a value to society, therefore they should be paying less taxes. But then you could apply that to everything. NHS workers, nurses, doctors, firefighters, policemen.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be paying any taxes because
Actually,
they
I
contribute
made
to
that
society.
point,
It was you.
it was.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
That's
Lewis,
fine.
And the thing is though, like, fine, okay, that I guess that's an argument. But like, if everyone stopped paying taxes, then you'd be in a whole lot of trouble. Like, we shouldn't base society on like, oh, I think you're doing something good, you should get a tax break. Everyone should just be paying their fair share of taxes. Now, I do mention on here, it's that the inheritance tax rate is 40%. Mm-hmm. And what Keir Starmer's doing is they're making those that earn those who have a 200-acre farmland or bigger, which is 100 football pitches, should have to pay 20%. So it's still a discounted rate, and it's an end to a tax break. So, but he's talking about all these people keep saying it's all rich landowners, but it's actually workers. If you have all of those assets, you ain't poor. Now you might even say, well, they don't get that much income every single year, not that much profit, but all of that wealth, you've got so much wealth there. So if you really wanted to, you could sell it off. Now, he would say, well, that's unfair. Well, I'll tell you what, you wouldn't have the same issue if someone who was working class had to make sacrifices because of taxation or whatever. He suddenly has so much sympathy for those, not in just the top 4%, but probably the top 1% of the country. But that just shows where his priorities are.
And again, there's so many more different levers that we can pull to help farmers out if they need it.
Say again.
There's so many more levers that we can pull to help farmers out if they
Yeah,
need
absolutely,
it.
yeah.
100%.
Farm workers.
Yeah. But again, I know you come to this point soon, and we'll go more into it, but I just want to say it again. Rich people ruined this tax break for actual genuine farmers. They did. They took advantage of it. They drove up the price of land by suddenly using this as a tax loophole, and Jeremy Clarkson was at the head of it. So,
Okay, let's continue.
An overseas investor, it will go to a big conglomerate, it will be held in trust.
Don't know why we've got
Trusts
thumbs up
don't
going
pay income tax or inheritance tax because trusts are perpetual. They don't die. So the whole thing is a completely, utterly flawed scheme. We want food in this country. We want farmers to feel protected. We want them to feel loved by the rest of the country. The fact that Asda and Morrison's, two of our biggest supermarket chains, have recognised the value of farmers where the government can't, to me, says it all.
Absolutely, fair play to them. I mean, we have seen, Curtis, this happened in Australia, where farmers have been forced off their land, and China comes in and buys up huge swathes
Yep.
of the Australian countryside.
Well, first of all, I'm glad that you're talking about capital flight overseas. That's something I actually agree with you. I don't like it when foreign entities, companies or states start buying up our stuff. I do want to draw a distinction, though, between farmland owners and farm workers. I think you're converging the two, because I stand up for farm workers. But if we look at the statistics...
Well, farm workers wouldn't be workers, excuse me, cutting in, unless there were farm owners. Somebody's got to run the farm, somebody's got to run the farm, and somebody's got to work on it.
Yeah, but obviously the tax is not going to hit the worker. So what I mean, so let me just lay this out straight. So it's 200. Those that pay the inheritance tax is 200 acres of farmland. That's equivalent to 100 football pitches. So the idea that these farmland owners are struggling, I think, is for the birds. Now you might say,
where's their wealth?
You might say.
I will say though, I mean, it's not my style, but I didn't interrupt him a single time. How many times did he interrupt me?
Or tried to, yeah.
Or tried to?
So many times.
So many times he kept cutting in, because obviously, it's not about, look, when you have debates, it's not really about the facts. It's not even really about the arguments you make. It's about the vibes. So a lot of people might watch this, be like, I don't even know what they're both talking about. But this guy won because he was the loudest man in the room. And yeah, that's exactly it, Jim. He's louder, you'll move. That's exactly it. So what he's doing is he's trying to cut me off so he gets more airtime. And if he gets more airtime, people remember that and be like, wow, he wipes the floor with him. But I wasn't having it.
No, but as well, like this loudness, this anger that people are getting about the farmers. Like, I'm not saying they don't deserve attention. I'm sure there are many farmers who work out there who work very hard, and maybe they don't earn loads of money, but lots of them do. The issue is that I wish the passion that these people have on this clickbaity topic, on this idea, they're covering it so much, they must be getting numbers on it, and that's why they keep covering it. But why can't they cover other industries like this? Like, you won't see GB News doing this for the nurses or for the doctors or for any other industry that strikes regularly, especially the train drivers. Actually, they're the opposite of the farm workers, right? The farm workers are the angels, and the train workers are the evil ones who are earning more money than doctors. And that's what frustrates me as well. That's what really frustrates me. Where is the passion for other industries? Where's the coverage for other industries?
Can I just quickly say to the chat, how's our audio doing?
Yes,
I mean, is
please.
this Celadon Faye? This guy needs his audio run through a compressor, keeps blowing my ears out with his shouting. I guess you mean Mike Parry, but it kind of made me think, like, is our audio okay? It looks quite loud on our end, but just let us know if they're okay.
Yeah, can you let us know whose audio it is? Is it Curtis's or is it mine?
I reckon mine's louder, but I don't know. But let us know. Anyway, let's go on with it.
Might say that tax is then pushed onto the workers. And my response to that is, if farmland owners, who are, by the way, the inheritance tax is not 40%, it's 20%, it's the end of a tax break, and it's not even the full 40%. If they're going to push that onto the farmland workers, that tells me that the farmland owners don't have the farmland workers' interests. I understand. First of all, I completely support the right to strike.
Is that any better? Oh, you did mean me. Curtis is a little high in the mix, but he's not yelling. If I've turned it down a little bit, can you please let me know?
Curtis is fine, but Lewis sounds like it's turned off, not left.
It's better, a lot better than last Monday when there was a constant echo all through the stream. I didn't even know there was a constant echo through the stream. Bloody hell.
Oh, God.
Okay. Let's go on.
I'm consistent here, even if I disagree with these people. Good for them that they're standing up for what they believe in. But I think there is a slight false narrative that it's struggling people, when I don't think that's the case. Now, they can sell their land, or they can actually give it to their kids and they have to pay inheritance tax on it. What I'm saying is, I want to make sure that we have a sensible debate and we distinguish between the workers on the land and the farmland owners.
Yeah.
I do not want to see... I do not...
workers as well. They would say, you know,
They would, but it's not going to hit, like, those that are earning, like, £12,000 to £20,000 a year. They're not hit by that tax. It's those, like Jeremy Clarkson, for example. I mean, he admitted that he bought some farmland just so he could evade taxes.
Everyone.
He's not standing in the trenches with those workers, because if this tax goes through, he's going to say, well, I'm going to pass that cost onto the workers who work the farm. That doesn't seem very fair.
Clarkson, he was standing in the trenches. He was standing outside.
Stand outside.
I mean, to be fair, the point I was trying to make is standing in the trenches, as in, like, it's very easy for Clarkson to be like, oh, I care about all these farm workers, but he's not in the same position. But she's like, well, no, he was there at the protest. Like, yeah, but he was there, but he doesn't care about their interests. Like, Jeremy Clarkson is protesting not because he cares about the workers or farms. He cares about the fact that he has to pay more taxes. Because, I think I already mentioned it there, he openly admitted that he bought farmlands just so he could avoid inheritance tax. Now, I find it funny that Clarkson is rallying against this policy. You do realise, though, if the tax goes through and he has to pay more in those taxes, right? He could just choose not to pass that on to the farm workers. I suspect he will, though. So it's funny that we never frame it that way. Like, obviously, yes, when we say certain tax rises mean that the costs get pushed onto the consumer, but I kind of want to say, yes, it gets pushed onto the consumer, but let's talk about that first of all. Let's talk about the fact that businesses and corporations willingly push it onto workers, and we're kind of held to ransom.
Also, as well, I can't remember the exact story. Maybe someone in the comments can remind me. But there was a story where a guy was getting interviewed at the protest when this story was really peaking a few weeks ago. And then it was reported by another outlet that actually this guy was like the former head of FTSE 100 or something. And he was just some millionaire who is not like a traditional farmer, but owns a farm. And it's just another example of a guy who was just using it as a tax loophole, like the former head of the stock exchange or something like that. Again, just more of these people who are angry because their little tax loophole that they've ruined for other people, which was created probably in good faith for farmers, to keep it in the family, yada, 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 which has been exploited by more rich people. I just don't get how people aren't seeing through this, because Jeremy Clarkson's still this like hero to a lot of people.
Graham Sudworth, sorry, I don't understand. How does Clarkson pass the cost of the tax onto his workers? So, when people say we should have like a sugar tax, for example, what ends up happening is the company doesn't pay for that. It just means that the consumer pays a bit more for Coke. So a lot of because our tax system is so pathetic that if Jeremy Clarkson has to pay more in inheritance tax, he has the power to raise rents, for example, when he rents out his farmland. So he would work out like how much more he's paying per year and then just raise it. So to me, obviously, like that's an inevitability, which is why you need a far better tax policy overall. But the point I'm trying to make is, you're angry at the government. Oh, the government are increasing taxes, but really, it's the bosses, it's the businesses are the ones who are raising the costs willingly. Like, you could be an altruistic boss and say, all right, my taxes are going up, but I'm not going to pass it onto the consumer. They can do that. Now, will they? Of course they won't. But I wanted to make that point because the way this is framed is it's the government that is solely responsible, but not the fact that prices are being raised in the private sector. If that makes sense.
Also, as well, like I want to quickly say, I still don't buy, but there is no data available. This idea when these groups that lobby for the farmers come out and say, "Oh, the average farmer in the UK earns like 12 grand a year." I'm sorry, but like if you're going to present us with a data set, like get rid of the people in there who have like a part-time chicken farm. Like I know for a fact I've seen some of the data before. They include like the really tiny small farmers. The people who might just sell some eggs locally or have really tiny small farms. Like give me the actual data on how much these people earn who do have the really massive farms who will be subject to the highest inheritance tax. And then we can have an honest conversation. If you actually told me that these people only earned 15 grand a year, then they have a £4 million farm, then I would think, okay, maybe let's do something about this. But if you're not going to present us with an honest piece of data, I'm not going to have an honest conversation about it.
Yeah, so a lot of farmland is rented to those who operate on the land, and that's the thing. I make a distinction here with Mike, because Mike's like he's lumping those that actually like man the farms and then those that own it. He's lumping that together. And I'm saying no, there's a distinction. There's those who actually produce the work, and then there's people like Jeremy Clarkson who just buy up the land and sit on their asses and do fuck all. They're the ones who are being affected. So Jeremy Clarkson can raise the rents. Like some people have to rent out that land. And of course, there are, like, when it comes to wages, it's not as easy of a sell for Jeremy Clarkson to say, well, I'm going to suppress wages now. But they might not get a wage rise. I don't know Clarkson's specific instance here, by the way. I'm saying people like him because he hasn't announced that he's going to pass on the cost to the consumer. I'm saying I suspect he would. Because why would he buy farmland if he wanted to avoid inheritance tax? He's going to try and find some sort of economic benefit.
Let's just not forget for a second. I'm sorry. He's cosplayed as a farmer, made a TV show out of it, which has made him millions. Which I'm sure a lot of people have said that he has highlighted a lot of issues with farming. Great, that's wonderful. But like cosplaying as some really hardworking farmer, which I'm sorry he's not. I don't believe that he's doing half the stuff he's doing when those cameras are turned off.
It's a TV show.
Exactly. He's just nah.
Farm workers will just go away and get a job somewhere else. I mean, I don't know why
Is that true?
Of course it is. I don't know why you've brought farm workers into the equation. I've never heard farm workers being a part of this argument before.
Well,
If
maybe we
there's
should
no
do that. We should speak about the workers.
So there's an inherent contradiction in his argument there, because at the beginning he's like, I care about the farm workers, I hate that there's a tax rise on these people when they're the ones producing our food. And then I say, okay, well, let's make a distinction here between farmland owners and the workers. And he goes, well, why are you bringing farm workers into it? No one's ever spoken about that before. I suspect you've never heard that argument before, but also it's so transparent actually, that when he's defending farm workers, he's defending those with wealth. Because Mike Parry, his politics is about supporting capital and supporting the very richest in society. I mean, he told me earlier that he's met Alan Sugar and had a chat with him. Like, my circles are not the same as his circles, so he doesn't give a toss about those that are manning the farm, because if he did, and by the way, I didn't get to make this point about unions, but if he did, would he support, like, I'm not talking about the farmers union, because unfortunately a lot of the farmland like sort of owners are inside there, but like a workers union for just farm workers, or a renting union, like that we do have a renting union, but would he support more widespread union activity? I suspect he wouldn't. Are we gonna?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Carry on.
They're the
Yes.
ones that create the food. They're the ones that do most of the work. So
Curtis,
actually,
if there's
it should
no
be focused
farm,
around these people.
If there's no farm, there won't be any farm workers. And there
Yeah.
won't be a farm if it's sold to pay inheritance tax on a family.
Where does he think the farm goes? If you sell farmland, where does it go? Does it disappear into thin air?
Yeah, like this idea, like it's not gonna get. Most of it's greenbelt. Like it's not gonna get built on. It's gonna remain a farm. It's not gonna turn into anything else other than its specific purpose, because that's what makes it have value. No one's gonna be building skyscrapers on it.
But like he's saying, like, but if you tax these people, the farmland owners are going to sell up. What's going to happen to the farms? You can't physically pick up Greenland, not the country, the land, and move it elsewhere. It's going to stay where it is. So the owner might change, but the actual land itself won't. Now, if the worry is that this farm owner sells it off to a company that has nothing to do with farming, once again, we should support stronger unions so it doesn't get sold off. Or we could have higher subsidies from the government. The government can easily step in and say, okay, well, it's going to be a rule or regulation that you can sell your farmland, but it has to be someone who's going to buy it. It has to always be it has to always operate as a farm.
Also, as well, I think in
Trump thinks he can. Well, yeah.
No, was it in Helena's stream earlier? She mentioned like, well, we could just ban people from foreign entities from buying farmland.
Yep.
Easy.
Yeah.
Ban foreign entities from buying farmland if you're so worried about it. Advocate for that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's very easy to say, well, you tax these millionaires, they're going to leave or they're going to move their businesses. The tax system is rigged, and there's they purposely left in loopholes where that can happen. But you can actually easily stop capital flight. There's literally so many things you can do. I'm not quite convinced on the economic protectionism. But there are so many things we can say, like it's literally illegal to sell it to overseas, for example.
But also as well, like he is like classic neoliberal. Where is the attitude of we don't want it to be sold to some foreign entities? Where's that attitude for the water companies that got sold off? Where's the attitude to the train companies which are slowly coming back in? Thank you, Labour, for doing something right. And all the other institutions that should be nationalised. Where is the attitude towards that? Because I can guarantee that if that conversation was brought up, he'd probably be against it all. He probably, I can guarantee he's literally the typical pro-Thatcher person. At one point as well, I think it was at the beginning of the debate, I think there was a comment, I don't know if it's been clipped out, but he specifically said that old people vote for Conservative because they've lived longer, basically calling anybody else who doesn't vote Conservative and young people stupid. It was a sly way of doing it, because obviously he is that, how old is he, this guy? Like 6?
I didn't even bloody ask, I don't...
But anyway, that's the point, isn't it? Like, if we want to talk about like capital flight and things being sent out of the country, we can talk about the £50 billion that water companies, dividends, mostly owned by foreign entities, have left this country. Now, if people are saying, 1,000 millionaires have left, I don't care. Because imagine if that £50 billion just from the water companies in the last 30 years would have stayed in the country. That's better than a few thousand millionaires. And this idea of millionaires, I mentioned this earlier. If two doctors who've lived in London and they've trained as doctors for 15 years and they moved to Australia, they've probably got a house that's worth over £1 million. They're a millionaire. They're weaponising the word millionaire because obviously that is a lot of money to a lot of people, but it's quite average for a lot of people in London. And they're weaponising the idea that, Labour are scaring off all these people, while not understanding the nuance that there are literally hundreds of thousands of people in London who are millionaires.
Well, okay, so I want to bring up...
Sorry, that was a tangent.
No, it's good. Like the tangents. Bring up Jim Speak, because he said hearing capital flight is a myth on televised news is very cool. I did want to do that. There was a point I wanted to make that I didn't actually get the chance to, which is, I think Helena also made this point, which is, what's his name? Mike Parry. Mike Parry says, well, it was in the news today that 10 millionaires are going to up and leave. Okay, there's a difference between a millionaire and a multi-millionaire or billionaire who owns businesses. Like, I don't care if individuals want to leave the country because their taxes are so high. Fuck them. Goodbye. Don't let the door slam on you. It's different if they're going to up and leave with their businesses. So it's very easy to say, well, what if we lose millionaires? That means there's less tax receipts because they're the ones that pay the high proportion of taxes, allegedly. I mean, I still want to look into that. But you could then argue, well, if there's less millionaires, all right, there's less taxation, but there's also less mouths to feed and whatever. But there's a difference between individual millionaires who are leaving, fuck them, and those who are taking their businesses with them, which I see, I forgot what I've already said in the clip, but I did say that things you can't take with you is your assets.
Yeah, you said
you can't
that, yeah.
physically take your assets with you. It's gonna have to be sold to somebody else anyway. So I don't care if individuals leave. You can piss off, but that's not capital flight. Individuals leaving with their own bank account, that's not capital flight. That's why I said capital flight is largely a myth.
There for hundreds of years.
Who's doing the selling, though? So these farmland owners, if you're saying they're going
Family
to...
will have to sell to pay the tax to the government.
But again, it's 200 acres of farmland. It's 100 football pitches. That's massive. It's not a small
it's not
little
massive.
farm.
It's not massive.
It is very big.
Have you ever seen the size of a combine harvester?
I've seen some.
Believe me, a combine harvester could cover your 100 football pitches in about 3 minutes.
And
it's not
on
massive.
that bombshell,
Yeah.
I never thought we'd end up talking about combine harvesters.
I'm from Bristol. I hear it all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what a combine harvester.
Can you break down what you meant by that, by the way? I'm not sure.
No. So okay, I'm actually reinterpreting it from my original thought earlier, because he's basically, I thought he was trying to just bring it to reality, but what I think he might be doing now, I'm looking back at it. He's got more. Where's he? He's like a Brummie. Where's he from, Mike? He's got kind of like a.
Does anyone know where Mike Parry's from?
It's like a Midlandsy accent, but anyway, he sounds like he's got more of a working class accent. And I think what might be happening there is like he's trying to weaponise the fact that you've got a southern accent and you probably sound some like lefty person. It's like you've never seen a combine harvester, you've never worked hard. I think that's kind of maybe what he was getting at there.
But I meant more of the point.
Oh, there was no point. I think he's just trying to weaponise the idea.
Because I think what he was trying to say is, look how big these farmland. Like it's 200 acres, 100 football pitches. I should have said that it's like a couple million quid, and he's trying to say, but that's not a big deal because when it comes to farm, you need to have quite a lot. Does this guy not understand size? 100 football pitches is very, very big. It's not some small, tiny little combine harvester. But it was a little talking point you got in there. I'm sure someone could have probably responded better, but at that point, I think Dawn cut me off.
Yeah, I don't think he knew.
Yeah.
I don't think he knew where to go with that point, and I don't know what he was trying to do. My now interpretation is trying to get to this idea of like, you're a 31-year-old little lefty, but you've
Oh, your camera's gone hot again.
Oh crap!
Why does it keep doing that? You can still hear us, by the way, but his camera has
Maybe because we've got so
heated.
many things plugged in.
What did you do last time to fix it?
I turned it on and off again. So, shall we
So-
try that? Do you want to switch to your camera for now?
Yeah, I'm gonna. So, guys, please don't judge me, but I'm gonna go onto my laptop camera while he resets his. Let's do this.
We should make our technical issues into. We should make our technical issues into a segment.
Ugh. I really apologise that this is the angle. To be fair, like this setup was like I was supposed to go back to Leeds today, but I stayed another night because there's just so much stress going on, like getting here, whatever. Anyway, so we did this last minute, so I do apologise that this is just so double chin cam. How ruddy dare you? Oh my god, bloody bastard, aren't you? The camera's great. The angle's oof. I'm getting fucking roasted by the chat. We're back on. We're back.
Give me a sec. Don't flick it.
I'm gonna be like this, right? So you don't take the piss out my double chin. I need to get. To be fair, I need to get into the gym. You know, Kurt. I don't know if Lewis's mic is on properly.
Oh no, it's because I'm not.
Oh, he's not at the mic at the moment. He's sorting out the camera. So, Alyssa Gucci. I don't know who that is.
Isn't that your stalker? Alyssa, respect the restraining order.
She's not a stalker. She's not a stalker. Send Alyssa love in the chat. It was supposed to be a left-wing media organisation. What are we doing? Anyway, I'm going to set up the next clip.
Horrible app.
Pause it. Right, we've got the second clip. The second story is the triple lock and Kemi Badenoch's comments. Nice little bit of class issues here, kind of, or kind of economic kind of class. More of my terrain. Excuse me. Come on, mate. We're going to be losing viewers in a second.
Oh, apparently, my ability to turn down the brightness on my camera to make it like less battery consuming is disabled. I've unplugged the charger and it's on full, which obviously plugging.
Well, let's switch back over for a second.
Yeah, and let's just see what happens.
And see what happens. We are back. No more double chin for you guys.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Oh my god, that's not my belly, that's just the coat.
Louise Williams, perhaps I've got a huge combine harvest down my trousers was the sense of it.
What? Say that again.
The chat's gone rogue.
Oh my god, let's see. Let me see.
Rach says, what's the art on the wall?
Oh, it came with a flat. It is.
Wait, how can you see it? Oh, because I had it on the other camera.
Oh, it's women who kind of look Spanish or Italian from 200 years ago having a little chat at the dinner table.
Is this the content you wanted, by the way? Or did you want to actually do politics? I don't know what you prefer.
Oh, one sec. Big Chopper. Why is the chat going so wild?
That's why MI6. Nah, it's Mossad. Right, let's get on to the second clip because we're being stupid.
Now, one of the strangest stories of the week, and there's a lot of competition, let's be honest, was Kemi Badenoch confirming that the Conservatives may be looking to backtrack on their previous support of the pensions triple lock. The Conservative leader did say that she does support the triple lock in concept, but her party will begin means testing the policy, saying we've got to give something to the next generation. To be honest with you, I actually have no idea what Kemi Badenoch said. I mean, she seemed to say one thing, then contradict it, and then go back on another. And I would humbly suggest, I'm going to go to the youngster on the panel first.
Please do.
I would humbly suggest, Curtis, that if you are leading the Tory party, most of your voters are a certain generation, you don't start messing around with pensions.
There's
Do you
two...
understand what she actually said, what she meant?
Well, I can try and dissect it.
Briefly and quickly, and make it more sense than she did.
There's two red lines as a Tory leader. You don't go after people on mortgages, and you don't go after pensions. And why? Yeah. And why has the Tory party collapsed in the last couple of years? Because they screwed people's mortgages, and now they're talking about means testing. But I find it funny because Kemi Badenoch, I thought she was better in the leadership contest, but I think that Robert Jenrick was weak sauce, so she looked better than she actually is. It's quite remarkable how poor of a leader she is. And she'd said, I'm very economical with my words. I never say anything I don't mean. Yet she's come out and attacked Labour. For me, a policy I think is wrong. I think we should keep the winter fuel payments. She's attacked Labour for means...
Just pause. Okay, guys, we don't know why this is happening. So there's a feature on Mac, right? When you've got your camera on, you can add reactions. And we've turned it off.
But it still keeps doing that.
Happening. You can do that. I think you can like do waves.
Apple,
as well.
can you fix this bug where even though we turn off the reactions, if I stick up my thumb, why doesn't it do it for you? It's fucking so inconsistent. So when you want it to happen, it doesn't. Let's go back to the
on winter fuel payments and then saying, but I support means testing on the triple lock. So why are you attacking the Labour Party for something you're going to do? What we should do is protect the triple lock and keep the winter fuel payments. Look, obviously,
I love you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm not an older person, but one day I'm gonna need to rely on this. And this benefits if I'm lucky. If I do get a pension at 31 years old, maybe it's not.
Oh no, so turn off the thing again. Like
So
on,
what?
on the reactions.
I have turned it off.
I thought you turned it on.
But even if it doesn't happen to me, I care about other people. I care about pensioners. And by the same breath, I care about those who, unfortunately, lose their jobs or are on unemployment. I don't want to see welfare cuts across the board because I'm consistent.
Pause.
But Kemi Badenoch...
Do you know what I think you're doing a really good job at here? Just overall, there's, we're on topic 2 now. Just to blow smoke up your ass. Is that they get you on as the lefty. You call turn left media. Fucking fun thing won't go away. You were called, it's turn left media. I don't think we come across as big lefties. It's not because we're trying to be like secret lefties to try and convince you. Because I think it's about making people realise it's almost like not about the left and right. In the sense of like we actually have loads of middle ground, so many things are agreeable, and actually like lots of topics don't have to be on this like spectrum that's literally just a concept that's been made up. Do you see what I mean?
Well, I mean, I think that part of the... Okay, so if I don't go on there, I know a stupid liberal's going to go on. And it's going to be here's the left-wing panel today, and it's Matthew Stolden, who's basically defending Rachel Reeves. And these people give the left such a bad name. So I want to be on there and be like, yeah, I'm not one of these Labour right supporters who say, well, actually, I think cutting the winter fuel payment is a good idea. Because, one, I think it's a stupid policy, but two, you ain't convincing anyone, especially the audience that watches, they're all a bit older. I mean, even Dawn said that herself. So, but the leftist would say, as I did, that we should be keeping the winter fuel payments and we should be protecting the triple lock. Yeah.
But as well, like I think we need to, extend that actually, because you touch on it, this idea of like, we want to protect more people. I just wish we had a political establishment which the way pensioners are treated, which they should be treated. I'm talking about, whether it's everything from bus passes to travel expenses to the triple lock on the pensions and other support systems that they have. That should be the attitude to every group in society. And if we can do it for this one massive group of people, I just don't see why we can't do it for everybody else. Why we can't have a triple lock on every other, quote unquote, benefit and or welfare related system. Why can't we triple lock the rest of them?
True.
Really remarkable how she doesn't see the contradiction in her own statement.
Okay, actually, sorry to pause again. I want to ask you about Kemi Badenoch.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know what you guys in the chat think, but like when I was watching her against Robert Jenrick, I mean, politics aside, because obviously Kemi's politics is insanely bad, like just as a performer, I thought she was better than Robert Jenrick. And I thought, okay, maybe she's going to push out these crazy libertarian policies, but in terms of rhetoric, she actually might be alright. And because Keir Starmer's absolutely terrible, that it slightly worried me a little bit. Not that I thought the Conservatives were going to come back, but I was worried that she was going to shape the debate, but people would listen to her. Since she's been leader of the Tory party, I think she has been embarrassingly pathetic.
I can't. The thing is, I can't quite put my finger on why it is, because she's actually had good moments in the past. Not saying that I agree with them, but you can appreciate when somebody's got their point across well. She hasn't really had any. There was a moment in PMQs earlier this week where she like made a jab at Rachel Reeves, which was funny, and she actually laughed herself at her own joke, which kind of shows you how new she is to all of this. Because do you know what I mean?
I made a good one.
No, exactly. Because I actually did like a little TikTok video about me watching PMQs, and like I was recording Kemi being so pleased with herself for landing what was actually a really good jab at Rachel Reeves, and it still shows you how new she is to all this. But I don't understand where that Kemi has gone. Who was there before? It doesn't make any sense. She should be better than this because she has performed better than this, and I don't know what she's trying to do. Is it that she's just bad, or do you think she's trying to do some sort of plan? I don't really know.
I think she sucks.
I
I think she sucks as a political
By the way,
operator.
I'm not defending Kemi. I'm just defending her past.
Kemi defender over here.
No, not Kemi bad or not Kemi bad. Oh, terrible! I know.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
That's really bad. But like, I'm comparing her to her past performances, and she's done terrible in the past as well. But she's
just
better.
even worse now.
She's done better. How is she worse now? You're supposed to get better over time.
Well, wrong person. I make a point on here that like she was like, oh, I'm so economical with my words. I never make a mistake. I never have to retract a statement. How many fucking messed up, stupid statements has she made? She said about how maternity pay has gone too far.
She wanted to means test the winter fuel allowance as well. That was on camera a couple of years ago.
This is what I literally just said. Excuse me. Is that I'll bring it back in again? She attacks the Labour Party for means testing the winter fuel payments. She's like, that's really, really bad. And then she goes, by the way, I'm going to means test the triple lock. So you're attacking Labour for means testing a policy whilst you're going to means test it. Like, how are you so politically inept? She's very, very amateur. Extremely amateur.
But she's also amateur in the sense that she got in a fight with her own country. Like, do you remember about a month and a half ago? She was literally having a back and forth with, like, I think it was the Nigerian, was it president or prime minister? I do apologise, I can't remember what system that they have. Because she was attacking her own country where she lived in Nigeria.
What do you mean her own country? She's British, don't she?
Oh, no, sorry. You can have two countries. She
Yeah.
has two countries. You know, she grew up part here, she grew up
Thought
part
you've been
there.
problematic for a
I
second
know,
there, Lewis.
God. No, you know what I mean. She lived there for many years. She is Nigerian. That's her, what's the word?
Heritage.
Heritage, thank you. And she went out of her way to, I can't remember what exact word that she used, but she did basically, was going down the line of like subculture, problematic culture, referring to a place where she grew up. And I feel like it's almost like unnecessary to get into that fight. And this is what she seems to be doing. She seems to be getting in unnecessary fights, making crappy arguments. And like, why would you talk about pensions now? Why? It makes no sense.
Well, that's the point I made. It's like there's two red lines if you're a Tory leader. It's don't go after mortgages and don't go after pensions because they're your base. And what have this always done in the last couple of years? They fucked people's mortgages, and now it looks like that Kemi Badenoch is going for the pensions. Like, at the very least, the Tories had they could have had a very good line, or they kind of had a good line, which is to attack Labour on the winter fuel payment and say, this is disgusting from Labour. The Tories could have used this as political
Jim is
capital.
reminding us to speak into the microphone.
Yeah, no, I've moved it back. Developing problems with the mic and echo. Kurt's nurse is a bit better now. Yeah, so the Tories could have increased their political capital by attacking Labour on the winter fuel payments. And now she's equivocating. So now people are going to turn around and be like, well, we can't trust Labour and the Tories when it comes to pensioners. And which political party, the one that the media platform, is coming in to save the day saying we wouldn't scrap it? It's Reform.
And what also doesn't make sense is, Keir attacked her on this actually a few days ago at PMQs. She said she's not going to do any policies until later down the line. So why would you even talk about this now? That she's not releasing any policies. She's not releasing any plans. Her plan right now is just to attack Labour. That's it. That's all she's got.
Well, it's kind of what the Labour Party did, didn't they? They had no policies and they just attacked Labour.
Yeah, but we criticised them on that too.
Absolutely. Carry on.
Labour, obviously, as they would do,
Yeah.
sort of like thought, oh, hello, there's a little chink in the armour here,
Yeah.
we're going to jump straight in there. Then they carried on digging their own hole, because when they were asked about means testing, pension, triple lock, they refused to rule it out.
No, exactly. I agree with Curtis on Kemi Badenoch. I don't know where she's coming from. She's done a U-turn on this already.
Yeah.
I mean, surely she should have been aware of Theresa May and how Theresa May managed to wipe out the majority that she had in the Commons by attacking pensioners.
Yeah.
She went after the
was
dementia,
dementia tax, wasn't it? Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was called the grey tax, the dementia tax. She had a 16% lead in the election that she fought, right? And all of a sudden, when one of her ministers mentioned older people having to pay more to look after their own care, that disappeared. So if Kemi's got any sense of history of her party, she knows exactly what Curtis said. Don't attack pensioners. Pensioners don't vote for Labour. They traditionally vote for Conservatives because they've seen more of life than younger people. The other point, Curtis, is that I don't believe in your lifetime you'll get a state pension. I think it will have gone.
Did he just say then? I think I missed it for the second time. Did he say older people vote Tory because they got more experience?
Go back a sec. You go back.
Let's go back. Because I missed it on the live, like when I was literally there.
When you are 60, if you do get one, you won't get it till you're 75, because we all know the demographic of the ageing population that we have, and they're going to have to push back the age of the pension further and further. So it's a very serious subject, and Kemi Badenoch shouldn't have been so vague about it. Shouldn't have been talking about... I mean, look, I can understand somebody like Lord Sugar, somebody like Richard Branson, somebody like Mick Jagger.
Oops.
Of course you'll means test them, because I spoke to Lord Sugar once, and he couldn't get hold of the subject, and Kemi Badenoch shouldn't have been so vague about it. 5, because we all know pensioners don't vote for Labour. They of history of her party. She knows exactly what Curtis said. Don't attack pensioners. Pensioners don't vote for Labour. They traditionally vote for Conservatives because they've seen more of life than younger people.
So Mike Parry says people vote Tory because they've seen more of life than younger people.
No, I think that's a bit of a joke because, you know, people say, oh, people become more conservative when they get older. I actually don't necessarily believe that.
That's not true. Yeah, it's not
Yeah,
true.
I think what I believe is that sometimes people grow up into the current system that we're living in, and they are almost like sometimes forced to have to only want to care about themselves. And I'm not saying people are selfish, but obviously when you're becoming older, you are the party that's going to try and appeal to you is going to be the party that's going to be like, well, we're going to cut inheritance tax, we're going to give you more money for your pensions. I don't think it's like the idea of like people go towards the Conservatives because they're so friendly to that group. It's more the other way around. The Conservatives, the only way that they can get in is by appealing to this group of people. I don't think it has anything to do with wisdom or experience. I think it just comes to this idea of like of having to survive in the system that we currently live in, because it kind of holds you ransom in a way. You know, if you don't earn enough money, you're not going to have a good pension. If you you might not be able to afford your own care, you might not be able to afford loads of things or a nice retirement, unless you vote Tory, and that's kind of what they scare you into sometimes.
Yeah, so it's a myth that the older you get, the more conservative you become. In the 80s, Thatcher was very popular with young people. So young people were more likely to vote Tory. It was older people that were more likely to vote Labour. So that completely dispels the myth. What?
I'm going to put Rachel's comment.
Which one? This one?
Yeah. Pretty true.
Often people become more conservative as they become richer. Well, that's true, but also, I think... So, what I was saying about like Thatcher's children, like young people supported Thatcher, older people supported Labour because it was they weren't used to that sort of Thatcherite revolution. It was change, right? These people were used to the old social construct of social democracy, of like the welfare state. They believed in these things based. Then obviously Thatcher's revolution came, and then younger people were enthused by it. And now between Thatcher and sort of early 1990, there was a point that, all right, if you got older, you weren't renting anymore, you had a house. Especially when it came to right to buy. People were getting on the property ladder, and a lot of people liked that. So like Gen X and young boomers, yes, became conservatives because of the economic policies that came from Thatcher, not because they were older and wiser. And what you're seeing now is, are people becoming more conservative as they get older? No, millennials are becoming more radically left-wing than before. You've got people, like millennials are not young anymore. We're not young anymore. I mean, you've got millennials
in like the mid-40s now.
Mid-40s
Yeah,
who
early
have
40s,
who
mid-40s,
have a
yeah.
house and kids. They're not becoming more right-wing. So it's not. It's a complete myth. But to be honest, that's just a stupid boomer throwaway comment you get at you at dinner with your family. And I was like, by the way, I didn't even hear that on the show, but I probably wouldn't even acknowledged it because it would have been like, let's have a discussion about this rather than the topic we're supposed to talk about. So,
But also at the same time, there is an undertone to that as well. He's basically saying like younger people are just more stupid.
yeah, of course he's saying that.
Yeah.
Of course he's that. But like, I wouldn't expect anything less from him. What's that? That's not the way I remember it, Curtis. Okay, I don't know what you're actually referring to there.
Well, the previous comment, the minimum voting age should be brought down to the age of 16. That's not the way. I think it's two unrelated things. We'll wait for your follow-up, Jack.
Well, I'll say no one I knew when I was young was Conservative. They all hated Thatcher. I mean, Thatcher was obviously widely hated, but if you look at the numbers, the breakdown of the amount of people, there were more people who voted Conservative under Thatcher. To be fair, I don't know which election, but more young people voted for Thatcher than they did for was it Michael Foot? At the time, I mean, Michael Foot was the first election. I am sorry, I ain't got anything to hand at the moment, but yeah. The broader point is, it is a myth that you become more conservative as you get older. This is a good one. Border Prince, I'm a millennial, and I can confirm that I'm becoming more left-wing.
Yeah.
Yes!
The other point, Kurt says, that I don't believe in your lifetime you'll get a state pension. I think it will have gone by the time you are 60. If you do get one, you won't get it till you're 75, because we all know the demographic of the ageing population that we have, and they're going to have to push back the age of the pension further and further. So it's a very serious subject, and Kemi Badenoch shouldn't have been so vague.
I do wonder, though, because there is a sort of, when it comes to pensions, it kind of transcends left and right-wing politics. Mike would happily acknowledge that young people aren't going to get a pension. But I would ask him, okay, so what do you think the causes of that, and what do you think the solutions are? Because I don't think he would believe in a more interventionist economic policy, or keeping the should we mandate keep the pensions lower? I wish I asked him about WASPy women when I didn't get to, but I'd love to know what his solutions would be. Probably something about tightening immigration somehow.
Who is it that's got the best pensions? It's the people, mostly often with unions. Perhaps not necessarily with certain public sector workers, but in terms of, obviously, mostly train drivers are private, but other people have really fantastic unions, whether it's private or even government funded, they tend to have amazing pensions along with it because they have somebody advocating for them, and it's always part of every single deal, a slight more contribution. Now obviously there was changes with the pension under Theresa May and everybody has to contribute whatever amount now, but obviously you do get a lot of these employers along with people who have unions who have really, really strong pensions. So if he's so worried about pensions, then we should be advocating for stronger unions.
Jacqueline, wasn't Dave Nellist he was in the Labour Party at that point, wasn't he? Because obviously he got kicked out of the party. Then did he found Tusk, or was he just part of Tusk? Fortunately, they've not really become an electoral vehicle. But in after 79, I'm sure Dave Nellist was in the Labour Party. Is that true? I'm asking here. Anyway, let's carry on.
Shouldn't have been talking about... I mean, look, I can understand somebody like Lord Sugar, somebody like Richard Branson, somebody like Mick Jagger. Of course you'll means test them, because I spoke to Lord Sugar once and he couldn't get hold of anybody in the appropriate government department to say, I don't want a pension. Literally, it just kept coming into his bank account.
I would go further and say, because some people have said, well, as a young person, we've not had it eased in terms of certain things when it comes to the housing crisis, so why should we care about the pensioners? And I say this, first of all, if you take care of one group, you would take care of everyone. I don't think we should be pitting generations against each other. I also think as well, let me finish that point. Let me finish the point.
Yeah,
I also think that even if there are some pensioners who don't need it, I'm still happy for my tax money to go to them, even if it means they get an extra holiday out of it. Because I like the idea in the year of 2025 now, that it's not just about scrimping by, but everyone should have a decent life, a decent job, have a car, or go on holiday. So even some of my tax money is going towards a pensioner who isn't scrimping and saving. I'd rather do that because if you start going for these people, they cut and they cut and they cut, and it'll get even worse. And then you start cutting other things.
What do you make of that? is that a controversial statement where I said obviously I support the winter fuel payments, but yes, there are some people in receipt of winter fuel payments who do not need it, and that is that is a valid point to make when some people say like, as a young person, we've got no welfare state, we've got no economic prospects, and yet we're giving winter fuel payments to someone who are extremely rich. There was that funny Tory ad where someone had like a Rolex on. But I then said, look, at the end of the day, I'm sick. Like, the way politics is framed is that people are desperate. We need to make sure, well, theoretically, we need to target those who are so desperate. I mean, your camera's gone off again.
Oh, bloody hell.
But what I was saying is, I am happy to keep the winter fuel payments, including those who don't actually need it. And if it means that with the winter fuel payments, they can actually have like a mini holiday, I'm fine with that. I'm actually fine with that. I do want to ask the chat, what do you think about that? Like, do you agree with me there? Do you think like I should be more hardline and say, oh no, I'm really annoyed that my taxes are going to a pensioner who bought a watch or went on holiday or whatever when they don't need to? Because for me, the reason why I said that is I believe in universalism. Because when you means test benefits, it's just an excuse that it's going to be cut sometime in the future. Whereas if, like the NHS, for example, I'll put it on my camera. The NHS, for example, why is the NHS, despite it being underfunded and privatized, why is the institution existed for this long? Because it's universal. If we had a healthcare system that was only geared to those who couldn't afford to pay private companies, and it was only geared towards those under a certain limit or those out of work, we wouldn't have an NHS anymore, because anything that benefits the working poor or those who aren't in work, they're the easiest target. So if we had a means tested NHS where if you earn like 30 grand or more, you have to pay for healthcare, but if you got it for free when you're younger, we wouldn't have an NHS. The reason why it exists is in a very divided class society, it is one of the few things that creates kind of cohesion across class lines, and that middle class people and even multimillionaires can use the NHS, and so can poor, working class, or those who are unemployed. It's universal. So universal, I think, as a principle is a good idea. So that's why I kind of brought up the point about, I don't give a fuck if my money's going to a pensioner who doesn't need it, because I think universalism is good. Because once we start making the argument that, well, this pensioner doesn't need it because they can afford it, well, then that's where we get into the argument of, well, let's cut welfare to other people, which is obviously what happens all the time. Oh yeah, we're back on.
Sorry, guys.
Very amateur.
No, I think it's probably to do with the fact that we're running like 2 microphones, and basically we're running way too much. I'm not even in the microphone. But hello. Essentially, we're running like.
You can't have chin cam back, no way.
We're running. Oh balls! We're running too many things off of one thing. I think that's what the problem is.
Pensions have spent their lives working, they deserve a holiday when retired. I agree. Not at all universalism is the only way. I agree.
Now the camera's back on, though. I want to push back on you slightly.
Go for it.
I'm going to push back. Okay, so I think you can believe in universality to winter fuel payments, and I think we can go back and criticise everything that Labour did to make cuts, and I think it's very easy for us to say, oh, we can just tax the rich, to tax wealth. However, there are certain times, I'm not talking about the specific time, where sometimes you're in a situation and cuts have to be made. And I think you can still believe in universality.
What do you mean that cuts have to be made?
Because you don't, I'm just talking hypothetically, I'm not talking about the current circumstances, but if your country's put in, I don't know, there's a massive world depression, whatever might happen, and you need to look at cuts that have to be made, I don't think it's like the worst thing in the world to say that, oh, perhaps people who might have, I don't know, over 30k a year income on pension, perhaps they might not get winter fuel payments for the next year or two. I don't think that's the worst thing in the world.
No. I mean, I would.
I know I want to acknowledge the threshold that Labour has put it at is very low.
But I would say, like, you shouldn't get to the point. If there was a massive recession and you did end up making cuts, I would go for the military. I would go for Trident. I would say these are things we're spending billions and billions of pounds on. Let's start cutting that first. I think, like, welfare, whether people need it or not, should be very, very, very low down the list. Mike's feed being rerouted via the bathroom. Okay. Okay, let's carry on.
We're in a bit of an echoey room. I think that's what it is.
Maybe.
That's
It's
the promised
catastrophic.
land. I mean, it's the promised land.
know it's
We're
not
all,
perfect,
going to be
guys.
looked after and all that kind of stuff. Thing is, you're a young man, 31 years of age, you've got loads of energy, something goes wrong, you pick yourself up and you go again. Trouble with pensioners is that, bang, they get a slap, they haven't got the opportunity or the energy to get up and do it again.
Pause.
So I agree with you. I think the
Apologies. I know we just stopped. I am fed up of this idea, especially of older people like him, weaponising the idea that younger people can't be sick. I know he's not specifically saying that, but he's kind of egging on to that idea. We have lots of people who, even mental health aside, because, as Tony Blair was controversially saying the other day, oh, it's a new thing, or whatever he was saying, there are lots of people who need a lot of help who are not pensioners. There are lots of people who get put out of work sick for months at a time. I know. I have had so many illnesses over the last few years that I've been teetering on the edge of not being able to actually work because of my multiple illnesses. I've been put in hospital multiple times. And I'm one of many. There are so many, hundreds of thousands of people out there who are young, who can get put out of work, who also need help too. And I feel like this idea of him just saying, if you're young, you can just get back on your feet again. No, that is a mindset. That is literally the reason why men live younger than men live
Live younger.
Men live younger.
Live. On average, live
Men live
less.
because obviously it's tying into this idea of just like pick yourself up by the bootstraps. You're not allowed to be ill. You're young. You can get through it. You don't need to stop. And I'm fed up of that mentality because that actually causes more problems further down the line.
A point I wanted to make, again, didn't get to make it, was that it has a knock-on effects though, because if pensioners are struggling because the state isn't providing for them, young people might have to leave their jobs to be full-time carers.
Yeah.
So that obviously affects younger people as well. But at the end of the day, this segment is the least fiery, shall I say, because we both agreed on the broader policy.
Andy says he feels like he's at the swimming pool. Is this because of the quality of microphones?
Oh, it sounded fine when we last did it. What does it sound like on your phone?
Checking.
It sounds fine. Andy Carter, are you being a fibber, or are you saying that when Lewis moves away from the mic, because then it sounds bad? But Lewis sounds like a local DJ about to play the Birdie song. What's the Birdie song?
I don't know, but I'm insulted.
Okay.
Is it because I'm wearing a fleece jacket?
But politicians have got to be much clearer about what they think about it. And Kemi Badenoch, Ian Duncan Smith once said, I'm the quiet man, and sometimes the quiet man can come up with the best ideas, do more thinking than talking.
Oh, fuck off. Ian Duncan Smith is a piece of shit.
So I am sick and
He's my
tired
MP.
of this debate, what we've had for years and years, which is about we need to cut this to spend on that. We need to...
So basically, this is Lewis's new mic, that's his older mic. This is far better because that's just a USB mic.
I gave him my new mic.
No, you didn't.
No, I mean like you're using.
Oh, right, yeah. This is the brand spanking new mic, which goes through an audio interface and stuff, but that's just USB.
Wait, is the Birdie song the? Is that the Birdie song?
That doesn't make any sense to me. Just going dun 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 dun. How am I supposed to know what that means?
You don't know what anything means. Yesterday, I'm sorry to get away from politics.
What the fuck?
Yesterday, I referenced Nobody Puts Baby in the Corner, and I was with him and Cog. They did not get the reference. Nobody puts Baby in the Corner.
Let's put you
He
on.
never gets any references to pop culture.
Carry on. I feel like you're gonna go for a big old
no,
spiel.
Sorry, that's it.
Well, that was weak sauce, wasn't it? Is that the chicken dance?
I don't know. The Birdie song and the chicken dance.
What the fuck is going on? Dirty Dancing. Well, I know what Dirty Dancing is. Patrick Swayze, R.I.P. Oh, is he a bad man, actually?
I don't know.
Is he?
Probably.
Okay. I don't want to say like R.I.P. and it turns out he's like a...
He can't sue us.
No, like he's like done essay or whatever, because like you never know with these people. I mean celebrities.
That to spend on this. There is another way. There's always been another way.
You've got a black hole.
And no, there's another way, and you go for the corporates who either you raise wealth tax or introduce wealth tax, you may not agree, or you just recover the taxes they've evaded or avoided instead of saying, right, we're going to cut winter fuel payments so we can pay for this. I'm sick and tired. I mean, we need to grow a backbone in this country because all we do is make our policies based on what the corporations do. If we had a backbone and said, you know what, I'm going to stand up to the political establishment and the corporations. We can have winter fuel payments, we can have a triple log, and we can invest in our NHS and our public services without cutting anything. Because we've had 14 years of austerity and no one's happy.
You must have seen the story this morning that 10,000 millionaires have left the UK since the Labour government announced they were going to crack down.
Yeah, but they've announced that they haven't done it. There's by the way, Capital Flight.
They've gone and they've taken
Capital
businesses
Flight.
with
I
them.
will say, Mike,
Pause.
Capital Flight is large.
I really want to give you credit, Curtis, because like this is your second time on GB News, right? I do a lot of debating. This is what I actually do a lot of on TikTok. I've literally debated thousands of people, from the weirdest and wildest people, for years now online, and you don't do that. You've had conversations. This is your second time on GB News, and you're taking on a guy who is known to be loud, to be bashful, to be very emotive sometimes, who interrupts people. It's your second time on TV, and you honestly handled him perfectly. You did.
Really? Thank you.
Did. You really controlled every conversation and did not let him interrupt you. You shut him down, and anytime he tried to, you just kept talking over him until he shut up, because he shouldn't interrupt you.
Just type in, carry on.
Oh, that was it, but I can keep talking.
Yeah, just keep talking.
Yeah, this guy, if you actually look into him, he's been doing this for years. He's been in the industry for decades, and I think it's really impressive for you to take on a guy like this and actually just handle him perfectly. I said this to you earlier, I don't think a person who's...
Camera's gone again.
Oh, for God's sake.
I've just put a poll in the chat. Who won the debate? Can you please vote? Obviously, they've got another segment to go, but so far, who's winning?
Guys, I don't know what to do about this camera. I think too many things are plugged into it. I don't understand why it keeps overheating, because it never used to do this.
Okay, should we put
I feel like I'm FaceTiming my mum now.
Can you is it overheating? Is that what it's doing?
It's overheating, and I don't know why. Maybe it's because the light is right over the camera. I don't know. But it only just started recently doing this when I upgraded my camera directly to link into my computer through the. I feel like I should be talking to Flowsnake in the chat, because Flowsnake's the one who's really good with tech. So Flo, I'm literally going to talk to you. I'm looking at the wrong camera. Ever since I put in, what's that thing called again that I got to connect to the camera?
A capture card.
Ever since I got a capture card, my camera keeps overheating. What can I do?
Yay, chin cam. Is that what you guys have got to say?
Right, let's do the best. Should we do our best double chin? Oh, thanks.
Do it again. I promise. I swear to
No.
God. I will.
No, because you can go back and screenshot that now.
I'm not. I promise I'm not going to do it. I swear.
Let me check the camera.
3, 2, 1. Oh, not going to do the... Okay. Are you guys a bit frustrated that we keep fucking up, or is this just kind of fun? This is a really... We did say this is going to be like a super relaxed debrief. So, yeah. We're just going to reset the camera again. There's only... This clip's nearly done. There's only one more clip. And then we can just have like a little discussion afterwards. Flowsake says, how hot is it? Can you touch it comfortably?
It's not even that
for
hot.
a few seconds. Is it giving you warning lights or anything?
No.
No, this is hilarious. Fair enough. It's incredibly funny. Oh, shit. Yes?
So tell Flowsnake that, because I reset my camera a couple of weeks ago, it's defaulted to auto power off at a particular temperature.
We'll turn that off then.
I just turned it.
Ah.
Turn it off. There's only two options. There's like standard or high.
Okay, so there's like if the camera gets a certain temperature, it auto powers off. There's two. There's like a lower threshold and higher threshold. I think that's a silly thing in the camera. I think there's a lot of older GB viewers who are still enthralled in civility politics. They are definitely going to see Curtis as being more reasonable, even if they disagree generally with. Do you agree with that?
I don't know. I feel like we talked about this earlier. I don't think that the GB News audience is a monolith. I'm not saying anybody's saying that specifically, but there are different groups of people who watch it. I think there are some people who watch it for its more civil side, because there are civil debates in GB News. They exist. And then you've got the audience who watch it for the the more crazy night shows with the Farages and Lee Andersons. I don't necessarily think that maybe the same audience who's watching Dawn's show is necessarily the same audience who's watching Lee or Nigel's show, maybe.
Do you think?
I don't know. I'd like to know. I'm just kind of like speculating.
Okay, I mean, this is all speculation. I don't know, but I've always believed, at least these days, that people just listen to the loudest voice in the room, because it's not about like debating. It's not about facts. It's not about logic. It's just about vibes. So I feel like a lot of people would see Mike Parry, who, by the way, is going to have the right-wing opinion, and yes, people watching GB News are more to the right, so he already appeals to them because they agree with him. Are they going to be convinced that I'm calm, or should I be like do a takedown? I don't know. I do hope though that like maybe I do come across as reasonable. I don't know. Of course, I want to do that.
But also, what I think you're good at keeping it at the audience's level. And not to say the audience is at a lower level, but some people can get into these conversations and like over academize
Smarty words.
Say smarty words and try and sound too smart. And even dive way too far down into what is statistics or research or quotes and philosophers, and just go down weird steps. You're really good at keeping it at the level that it's supposed to be. Do you know what I mean? You don't go off into either anecdotes. You don't go off into certain tangents. You keep it just really straightforward and simple. It's almost, I'm not going to blow this much smoke up your ass because you've probably got a couple of years to go before you get to the Ash Sarkar level, who's fantastic. But that's what she's good at when she's on TV. She's good at just keeping it at the appropriate level to, appeal to the audience.
Well, I mean, everyone wants to be like Ash Sarkar. I'm not at that level, but she's obviously fantastic.
He's not at that level.
How dare you? No, I agree, because you have to we can have when we do our normal island shows. Yes, they are sometimes can be a little bit intellectual because we're speaking to majority leftist audience, right? But you go on GB News, you do have to slightly dumb down your message, and it's not about saying people are stupid. It's the fact that people politically are not engaged. Therefore, they don't have time to understand what guilt or austerity or macroeconomics is or whatever. People don't have time to do that. And that's not just GB News. That's going on any mainstream media platform. Now, I think traditionally leftists have always wanted to sound really smart. So they'll go on these programs and be like, and it's like, yeah, but the right are succeeding because they dumb down their message. They dumb it down so much that they just fucking lie. And they say, you're eating cats and dogs. But like that is going to resonate with someone, even if they go, I obviously don't believe that, but he's resonating with me. Then a sort of technocrat, boring person who just sounds dull.
But related as well to can you put up? I'm so sorry. Is it Sailor Donofay? Is it Kayla Donofay? I don't know how to pronounce that correctly. That I don't think you'll win these people over though. Just put that up a second. On that specifically, what did we talk about earlier? The vote share for GB News.
Oh, yeah. So you said there's a poll that 40%, and I think this is before the election, but apparently 40% of GB News viewers are Labour voters or voted Labour.
Yeah, or were intending to vote Labour leading up to the election, if I remember correctly. And I do feel like there is this idea that perhaps has been painted that the GB News watchers are all just, perhaps conservative people or reform voters or somewhere in between, or maybe even, the Tommy lovers. But it's actually not true. I do believe that obviously the people who created the platform that is GB News want people to go in that direction. Absolutely. We know that's their agenda. However, the reality is that 40% of their audience, according to this poll, were intending to vote for Labour. I'm sure those numbers have changed now.
I
but-
think they've changed, yeah.
But it just shows you, like, it's not just as simple as, like, oh, you can't change these people's minds. And, you know, a lot of people, when they go in interviews, whether it's politicians, you're not out there to change everybody's mind. But if you can change some people's mind or just spark a thought, then, you have potentially made a difference.
Potentially. Let's
Maybe.
carry on.
Yeah, first of all,
It's not a myth,
there's
mate.
two things I want to say on that.
That's our favourite plumber, Charlie.
First of all, the assets.
God,
that
he
they
really
can't
wants to
take with
keep
them,
interrupting me, wouldn't he? Really wants to interrupt me.
still
It's like
here.
Flow Snake.
And
Right now, is
secondly,
Lewis
they
pointing
still
his
have to
mic at
bring their
Curtis?
businesses into this
No.
country. Now, there are a lot of ways you can do that. If someone says, do you know what, I'm going to up and leave, we'll tax them on the way back in. Because we're a market of 70 million people. Like, if you think taxes are too high for this people, you say, well, I'd rather have 50% of something than 100% of nothing. They are going to sell in this country.
Does that make sense to people, by the way? Because I was trying to... Because what would you rather, 50% of something or 100% of nothing? Because the point I was trying to make is, well, when this idea of capital flight, where if you raise the taxes, people are going to up and leave. But we are a market of... I mean, I said 70 million. That's not correct, is it? I mean, you've got to think, like, those who can consume stuff, have a job and can actually pay for stuff. So 70 million was obviously a stupid figure, but like let's just say 40 million, 40, 50 million. We're a market of 40, 50 million. So companies would make more money by selling to us at a tax rate they're not comfortable with than just not selling to us altogether. So that's why I was kind of saying, like, well, 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing, because it is true. Like, when companies up and leave, as they say, they don't take their business away. They're still going to try and sell to us. And there are so many different policies that you can address to sort that out. You could just make it illegal to just, like, sell off your assets at that. I
But if you're selling off your assets, you're selling to.
I'm not sorry. Yeah, I didn't mean to say that. I've had a
No,
beer
but
or two.
the money's within the country, isn't it? Still, like, and again, this idea of people taking their things abroad, like the data of talking about people with money, and even whether it's companies, like, oh god, what's the point I'm trying to make? It's been a long day. When it comes to assets that people have, a lot of this data, if you actually look at who's providing this money, the data behind, like, the money of the corporations, individuals, or any of this, it's coming from the wealth managers, the wealth management companies. And when they're saying, oh, this many people are leaving and this many people are selling off their assets and just packing up and all of this, it's coming from the wealth managers. And on top of that, people leave the country. Like, when they're saying, oh, however X many amount of people are leaving the country and taking their assets and selling up, how many would have done that anyway regardless? So it's just like almost like weaponizing the data. It's like saying, oh, thousands of people are just leaving the country. It's like, well, yes, thousands of people leave the country every year and thousands come back in. And the idea that people, like, millionaires, are just walking away, it's just absolutely ludicrous. Because what was the people who left the country last year? About 500,000-600,000. That's how much people packed up and left the country, whether it was like to go back with their visas ending, anything like that, people moving to other countries. How many of them were millionaires? How many of them had assets? And they've included them in this data to weaponize it. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, well, facts is not on their side.
And I'm sorry to say, but largely it is a tool to say, well, if you tax us, we're going to leave. That's very convenient that they say that.
Yeah.
Whilst the rest of us,
But they do
we
leave.
ain't got a choice. We've got to pay the taxes. So I just think
they
it's
do leave, and they have left,
Yeah.
and they're not paying any taxes now, and they were paying great taxes before. I'm sorry, the top 5% in this country pay 50% of tax. It's the top 5% who are going, and we're going to lose all that tax money.
I think it's largely a myth. There are people who announce it. The people who will say it, and we get scared and we do something about it. But there are so many different policy ideas,
Actually,
and I'm not seeing that floated in the media.
I just want to say, Curtis, that being the sort of person that hangs around with multimillionaires, I do know at least
Yeah.
That's personal anecdotes there.
It's almost as if, like, hanging around with multimillionaires means that, like, they'll say things in your ear and then you just gobble it up. Like, okay, that doesn't mean anything.
But as well, like, again, it's just personal anecdotes. Anecdotes are important, but they're also not at the same time. It depends how you use them. But
I mean,
again,
they're good for a rhetoric tool, but
Yeah.
anecdotes don't mean shit when it comes to data.
Yeah, two of my friends have just literally moved to Australia. They sold their house, they've transferred their pensions, they've done all of that. they didn't leave for any specific policy. When people are weaponizing this idea and this data on my friends, like they're just using data that's out there, and you actually have no idea why they left. They're just using the number of people left and being like, oh God, it must be because of Labour. It must be because of these policies. They're scaring everybody away. And it's just completely unsubstantive. Completely.
Dominic Jones, Helena pointed out that it was non-dons leaving, so lost no taxes at all.
Oh.
Well, there you fucking go then. There you go.
With multi-millionaire
Okay.
farms that have literally
Yeah,
sold
but
up.
let's reform our tax system so we can do something about it rather than just
You should pay
say we need to.
22% across the board, in my view.
Yeah, I mean, look, if someone's
Did he say 22% across the board? Is that the figure he flowered?
Sorry, say that again.
Let's go back. He was like talking about
do you want to
flat
pay an
tax.
extra 1% on my tax for a better NHS, I'd do it.
In my view.
Yeah, I mean, look, if someone said to me, do you want to
You
just
should pay
say we need to
22% across the board, in my view.
Could you guys hear what he said? It sounded like, oh, I think it should be 22% across the board. Whatever it is, he's making the flat tax argument, but the flat tax is unbelievably stupid. I know Kemi Badenoch potentially flouted this idea. That is a catastrophic policy. Progressive taxation is really, really good because obviously the more you earn, the more you should pay. And some argue for a flat tax and say, well, if you have a flat tax that everyone pays 25%, the more you earn, the more you're going to pay into the system, which is true. But that doesn't bring in enough revenue. So you want to have a higher progressive taxation rate. But the broader point is not necessarily about bringing revenue in. The reason why I believe taxes should go up, because, by the way, like with our sovereign currency, with the Bank of England, like, we don't necessarily have to bring in all the tax receipts to pay for stuff. We can just do it anyway. It's very good to have our own lender. Taxation is about reducing inequality. It's not necessarily not necessarily saying we need their taxes to pay for the NHS. No, it means we can't have low taxes for the rich because they get richer and richer and richer, and money equals power.
Also, as well, like the idea of like this whole flat tax rate. Again, it's just one of those things that he's saying because he loves saying things that might sound good to a person who might not actually like know more about this topic. And it's not my favorite topic here. It's not something I know loads about. The one thing I do know is that someone like him will happily call for like a flat tax rate for everyone, but then probably not want to get rid of the other tax loopholes for the richer people that they can access to actually effectively bring down their effective tax rate, which is obviously what they do often exploit. He probably wouldn't want to get rid of any of that. He probably wouldn't want to get rid of CEOs paying themselves in assets way more than they do in cash so they can avoid tax and all of these types of lovely loopholes that they do, offshore accounts, whatever it might be. But because again, what will happen if we brought in a flat tax rate, if that ever won, if a populace ever brought that in, it would not be a flat tax rate. It might be on paper, but effectively the rich will always pay less because they will always have loopholes to access.
Damn straight.
Yeah, I mean, look, if someone said to me, do you want to pay an extra 1% on my tax for a better NHS, I'd do it as well. But I would also, I'll pay for you.
Would you pay an extra 1% of taxes if you meant there would be a huge cash injection in the NHS?
Well, not just the NHS, but just across the
or across the board.
Just across the board, yeah. As long as everyone was just absolutely on board for it, I think that'd be good.
And I'm not saying that's a policy proposal. Like, if I were to write a manifesto, I wouldn't want more taxes on working people. We should just have a wealth tax or increases in taxation. But, like, yeah, if someone turned around to me and said, well, you talk about, increasing taxes for rich, would you pay more tax? If someone said just a 1% tax on me, on the lowest bracket, and it would be ring fenced to fund these services, I personally would say, yeah, I would, because I believe in the public realm. There are many social democratic countries who have higher levels of taxation, and their public services are second to none. Again, not saying that is necessarily the steps you make in an economy like ours, but I personally would. I thought that was more of a rhetorical point though, rather than an actual policy that I would say this. I'm not going to be like, the Lib Dems call for it, didn't they? Like some sort of, I'm not like, right, we need to increase taxes on working people to pay for the NHS. No, I'll always say it should be wealth taxes and the richest. But
I know that this is a slight deviation, but completely related to the topic. But we talked about other young people earlier who were like, voting Margaret Thatcher right wing. We do have a subsection of people who are becoming more right wing, but the reason I'm making this relevant is because that group of people, the young men especially, who are becoming like more American libertarian, the amount of rhetoric I'm hearing recently from like young British men talking about like the hatred of taxes, the way like Americans talk about it. Like we can all joke about like nobody likes paying taxes, but ultimately when you actually come to a serious conversation, we know if the system works and it's managed and it works well. Whoa.
Sorry, his soul life. They said it again. They said it on one of the last shows. Says, "Turn this motherfucking left, Troy." Samuel L. Jackson, Snakes on a Plane.
What? I did not understand anything you said.
Have you seen Snakes on a Plane?
I know some of the quotes.
Head was motherfucking snakes. It was motherfucking plane. If you watch the slightly censored version, it's like, I've had it with these monkey fighting snakes on this Monday to Friday plane.
That's so strange.
But anyway, she's like, turn this motherfucking left, Troy. Samuel L. Jackson, Snakes on the Plane. I'm sorry, but that really tickled me. That's my humour. It's really stupid humour.
Well, you like Lost, so you've got really bad taste in stuff.
Can we cut this stream? Like, we need to have an argument. Lost is the best TV show that's ever existed, and you want to fucking throw that up on a political stream.
Lost.
On Turn Left Media.
No, anyway, where was I going? Anyway, so no, a lot of these like young men, especially who are like consuming stuff like Joe Rogan and these American podcasts and these American libertarians, like the hatred towards like tax and the tax system, talking about moving to Dubai and all of this, it's becoming way more pronounced. So we're probably going to have some more battles in the future against people who are going to be like, the libertarian Liz Truss's, like low tax, small government type of stuff, because that libertarian side in the UK is actually coming out a little bit more. Sorry, slight deviation.
Just fucking Jacqueline.
I'm trying to be serious, guys.
Never
What's
watched the film, but what does turning the plane left have to do with the problem of having snakes in the plane? Were the snakes right wing or something, and turning left would kill them? Oh, that's so fucking stupid, but I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah, maybe the snakes are right wing and the plane's got to turn left and it kills the snakes. I don't know. That sounds like political violence. Just joking.
Oh,
just
I can't.
joking.
What was it, Alyssa? What?
Oh shit, Lewis, you did not just insult Lost in front of Kurt.
Oh yeah.
Turn Lost Media.
I love that your stalker knows that you like Lost.
You can't throw out accusations that this person's a stalker. It's
Sue me.
crazy. Glad I stopped watching Lost after a few episodes, so didn't get invested into the madness.
Oh,
Why are you?
I've turned this into a Lost.
Why are you glad that you stopped watching? Because it sounds like that you didn't give it a chance and you gave up. Like there are so like. Sorry, we were talking about winter fuel payments or whatever. Now
I knew this would trigger him.
Michael Bay lost. So, oh, go and direct another Transformers movie. Why don't you? You get it, because all right. Anyway, let's go. This is going off the rails.
I'd expect the corporates and those who should be paying their fair taxes, if they were patriotic about this country, want to see a thriving country, and want to do business in this country, they should pay the taxes. We should all do it for a better.
Sorry, like the patriotic line was very good. I remember like we were talking in our group chat while Curtis was on air. And we immediately said that that's a really good line because it taps back into this idea of patriotism, because patriotism is a funny word, because it's like I feel patriotic to be in this country, but a lot of us have that self-consciousness of talking about being patriotic, because obviously there is a group of people within this country who have used that word and then are often just
well, arguably the biggest voices of patriotism have been
nationalists.
Are nationalists, who, and also like Western exceptionalism, as well. But again, like it's not. Patriotism isn't the word I use. That was purely red meat for GB News, because that's like, I would say the richest should just pay their fucking taxes, because they should do. But I think it does work a lot better if you say to GB News, I think you should be patriotic and pay your taxes. I thought it was a good line. I don't know how people.
But the perfect example of all of this is like if people want to come here or just grow up here as well, of course, and like build up your wealth off of taxpayers, a country that's built by taxpayers, and a what are you laughing at now? I was starting my spiel.
No, carry on. Let me laugh. I'll put you on screen.
One sec. our tax-paying money has obviously built this country up over the years. The infrastructure, the roads, the subsidies, everything, all the system. If you want to come here or build up wealth here, or even transfer your wealth here and still continue to make profit off of it, millions, billions, whatever it might be, and then decide, oh, a tax policy changes and you're just going to run away. You are not patriotic towards this country. You do not care about this country. The perfect example of that is somebody like Elon Musk. I'm sorry to pivot to America, 10-second rant. He built his companies, plural, many of them, in California, paid for with Californian subsidies, paid for with dozens of government subsidies at the federal level, built them up to, in many ways, some of them to a success. We can argue about that another point. However, as soon as he actually gets to the point where he has money to relocate, he just F's off to Texas. And he's like, oh, fuck the lefties. Let's go to Texas where there's freedom and no taxes. It pisses me off. It pisses me off so much how you can build up that much off of the backs of other people and then just try and be like, oh, fuck the lefties, fuck California, let's go somewhere else. Fuck off.
Fuck off.
Right, okay, all right, we've run out of time again. God.
Oh, that was the end of the clip. So we've got one more clip, and this is the... I'm going to go to the toilet, actually, before we do this. So I'm going to put the camera just on you, and you need to waffle for a bit. But the last story is, of course, about the grooming gangs, and it's a much more difficult debate. I think there's going to be a lot of... I think I performed well, but like there's a lot of critique I'm going to have of myself and you guys as well, because this is obviously a very tough, sensitive subject to debate. I will say there was one bit where... And I didn't refute him because I think I tried to refute him, but like sometimes when, okay, so he talks about black on black violence, and I was like, fucking here we go. He's bringing up the race card, isn't he? And
Yeah, because we agreed that you weren't going to bring up race
until
they did.
Yeah. But like when you're having this sort of conversation, there's like multiple different avenues you can take the conversation, and I didn't know which one to pick. Because I had my like lines in my head, my talking points in my head, and then he brings on black and black violence. I'm like, fuck, do I then need to address that? And so I don't think I directly addressed that claim, which I'm sorry about. But again, it's tough being in the studio. It is. It's not easy. Am I going to take you to the can? No, I'm not. I'm going to leave you in the capable hands of Lewis while I quickly run off.
Okay, cool.
You can speak.
I'm just waiting for you to get by.
You can plug in the charger.
Guys, how unprofessional is this? Let me find my camera angle, my perfect one. Did I move away? Oh, I'm moving out of the angle. Well, this is a surprise. I had no idea that he was going to go to the toilet. But yeah, like with the... obviously, we're going to see the clip in a second. But when it comes to anything related to Sadiq Khan, I get really pissed off because when we were thinking about what might come up in the topics today before we got them, we were talking last night, and GB News immediately started writing multiple articles and putting multiple pieces out in the space of 1 or 2 hours about Sadiq Khan, about grooming gangs, about knife crime, and of course, oh God, excuse me, of course he needs to be held responsible. He's a politician, he's in charge of London, and he needs to be held responsible. We're not big fans of Labour. We're not even that big a fans of Sadiq Khan. We believe in obviously holding people responsible and giving them credit where credit is due. But because of his identity, he is weaponized. And we know that. We know that Sadiq Khan only gets so much attention off of the right because he is a Muslim, brown-skinned mayor of London. You've got the famous call from last year with Buddy James O'Brien where a guy called up and genuinely believed with his full chest that Sharia law has been implemented into London in 2 different boroughs. Guys, I believe it or not, I spend a lot of time on right-wing Twitter, and I mean the very far-right Twitter. And I only do this just to see what they're talking about and track them. And I obviously spend a lot of time debating like Tommy Robinson supporters on TikTok so I can understand them and just kind of see what's happening in their space. And many of them believe this. There is a massive section of the population, not a majority, but a massive section of those type of people who believe that he is like a crazy Muslim who wants to implement Sharia law, who loves grooming gangs and all this type of stuff. And they love reporting on it and they love spicing things up. They have reported on Sadiq Khan literally dozens of times just in the last few days. They are obsessed with this man. And we know, not just because he's the Labour mayor of London, we know it's because he's a brown-skinned Muslim. and he represents a target that they can go after. I love it when I'm on TikTok and I'm doing a discussion panel, and you'll get some guy from up in Sunderland. Huh? Oh yeah. Oh, I left one in the top drawer of the freezer. It might be a bit too cold now. I left a beer in the freezer earlier for Curtis because I don't drink beer and people keep leaving beer at my house. I'm a celiac. Let me know if there's any celiacs. So every time Curtis comes or anyone else, I just try and give them the beer that people keep leaving behind in my house. But yeah, Sadiq Khan has got a target on his back because of who he is. I love it when people from Sunderland who haven't been to London for 20 years are just like, oh, London's a mess. He's back. London is a mess. Sadiq Khan's ruined London. And it's like, you've never been to London. You literally only hate him because of his identity. And we know that's true. But it's not something that you can necessarily go on to GB News and say, because you would obviously require some further evidence. But we know it's true. We know it's true. I didn't actually go into any specific stories. I was just talking about
What did I miss?
the absolute obsession of the right with Sadiq Khan, and I'm basically talking about how they are we know they're absolutely obsessed with him because he's a brown-skinned Muslim man.
So they're obsessed because he's Labour, but also the implication here is he's Muslim. In fact, we had Lee Anderson say that Sadiq Khan has basically given London away to the Islamists and stuff like that. Disgusting stuff. So, of course, so much of the hatred that goes towards Sadiq Khan. Again, a guy I don't politically agree with on a lot of stuff, but I want you to disagree with him on his political positions, not because he's a Muslim. But that's clearly what it is. But again, it's something very hard to bring up what you said on GB News. I got the right one.
Oh no, I saw the red bit of the can, and Vicky just put it looks more like a Coke than a beer.
I know, it's a bit. Should I be drinking on stream?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. Are we going to get demonetized for it?
By the way, I lived in Bethnal Green, aka an area in Tower Hamlets, when Lee Anderson, with his full chest, said that it was a no-go zone.
Yeah, it's so fucking
I lived
racist.
there when he said that.
Just going for Karen talks. So I'm going to go for the comments.
Oh, but yeah, the complete obsession with him is just unfounded. I've never seen an obsession with a government elected politician ever in my life at this level. But it almost reminds me of Obama, who obviously was the highest elected person in the US. But when he was in power, remember the standards that he was held to? And obviously there were some Muslim-esque related conspiracies around him. But obviously there's the famous white suit. They were literally saying he should be literally impeached for wearing a bloody white tan suit or whatever it was. It was like the most ridiculous stories that came out about this person multiple times. And we know that they only focused on certain types of stories because he was a black president, and they held him to a completely different set of standards. And it constantly happens. And just remember, obviously, the same sphere of Fox News and all these people who did the tan suit story about Obama, and all these stupid, ridiculous stories, are the same. It's the same sphere over here. Talk TV, GB News, funded by the same sphere of people. What?
I'm taking a sip and I put myself on camera. Fly Snake, just don't do what Kevin Logan did a few months back. What did he do?
What did Kevin do?
Because I think I said I having a beer on stream. I feel like potentially we might have got demonetized from the election coverage because we had beer on screen. But then also we had loads of clips. It's probably that. But I'm really interested. Please, if you've got any Kevin Logan goss, please tell me. And let me load up the last clip. So yeah, it's about grooming gangs. It's not something I particularly want to talk about on GB News, and here's my position on certain topics. So I think I was asked to go on GB News to talk about Charlie Hebdo because it was like the 10-year anniversary of the terrorist attacks. And of course, even though Charlie Hebdo is like, look, I think religion should be critiqued, and obviously if you critique religion, you shouldn't have a fucking terrorist attack. I get that, and but at the same time, like, people shouldn't go out their way to offend religion. Yeah, I think there's a bit of a difference there. But I knew it wasn't going to be a sensitive debate. It was talking about that on GB News, and I just basically said I don't want to talk about it because look, I can't predict what the stories are going to be on a panel show. That's a risk you take. However, if someone directly says to you, "Come on the show and talk about this," and if it's something I don't want to talk about, I'd say I'm not going to do it. If I had a message from GB News saying, "Do you want to go on and talk about trans issues?" I'm not going to go on and debate trans people. Like, they're fucking human beings. Now, having said that, when it's a panel show, I can't predict it. But usually, I think with like the weekend show, I don't think that's typically going to happen. So of course, like we always prepare. Like, if my panelists were talking about something that has nothing to do with trans people, and they might throw that out, of course I'm going to be prepared to have my arguments for that. But if someone turned around and said, "Do you, as a fucking straight cis guy, specifically want to talk about trans people in GB News?" Not a chance. So I think that's why I prefer panel debates, because they don't think they usually go down that route. I could be wrong though, but that's kind of my personal position on it. I don't know if that makes sense to you people watching at home.
Oh, sorry, were you waiting for my response then? I thought you...
Yeah, you could have a response if you want, but
Yeah, like I as soon as Curtis messaged me, I can't remember if I was on the phone with you when you told me. He was like, "Oh,
Yes.
I've been invited on to do Charlie Hebdo," and I immediately was like, "No, like don't go for it," because when it comes to these topics, I think grooming gangs is slightly different because obviously it's very topical what's happening right now and how it's been stirred up by Elon Musk and Dominic Cummings, whoever else. But a 10-year anniversary of this attack, just absolutely not, because you know that they're specifically putting that out there just to try and weaponize it in any way that they can.
isn't the clip about knife crime? It sort of is, but isn't. So the premise starts with knife crime, but it quickly, and it's not because the conversation turned that way, it's because Dawn Neeson then brings up a clip of Sadiq Khan not knowing what a grooming gang is, or didn't bring up the clip but said that. And by the way, we prepared for that.
I predicted they might not show that clip as well, actually.
But they brought up the point, but didn't show the clip. Yeah.
But they brought up the other clip, which obviously you'll see in a second. But they are utterly and completely obsessed with Sadiq Khan. It just annoys me so much because I brought this point up earlier. Because they are London centric. GB News, everything's filmed in London, everything's done in London. Yeah, they go to do filming in other parts of the country, but the fact that they give so much coverage to Sadiq Khan when there are so many other issues going on around the country, they should be spending more time covering other things.
Jacqueline, knife crime and grooming gangs are both racist dog whistles.
Like, yes, they can be 100%. I do think some people get caught up in the rhetoric of like grooming gangs, in the sense of people will use the word but not actually also mean, like people like the GB News. I'm not saying them. But I do know people within my family who will use the word grooming gangs. They actually do mean everyone. They're not referring to a certain group of people. But obviously, yes, it is weaponed. I hate the word grooming gangs because it is a dog whistle and it is being weaponized. And obviously, knife crime is racialized. It absolutely is. And it doesn't have to be, because there is knife crime all over this country. Are you laughing then?
No.
Oh.
I'll laugh at that more.
There is knife crime all over this country in very extremely white areas. We're talking areas of 95, 96, 97% white British people, almost as high, if not higher in some years, than London. And we don't talk about those because the mayor of London is Sadiq Khan and is a brown Muslim, and we want to demonise him. And also London. It's unfair to the rest of the country.
Knife crime and grooming gangs in of itself isn't a racist dog whistle, but 90% of people who deploy it are using it as a racist dog whistle, which means, Jacqueline, you are completely correct. I do think it is a dog whistle because...
But I don't like the word grooming gangs. Because when people think of, not us necessarily, but they've created that word to make it associated with British Pakistani men, not anyone else who's not a British Pakistani man who is doing group-based sexual activity on children.
So, okay, let me ask you then, why is that? Why would the term grooming gang be associated with British Pakistani men?
Because it's the way the media's portrayed it, because that term was coined around that time, when it was around 2011, 2012.
Yeah.
It is not a legal term. It is not a term that is used in the courts. People were annoyed at Alexis J because I think she mentions the word grooming in her 400-page report once. That's because it's not referred to as grooming. It's referred to as, like, there's different terms like group-based activity. You can't go to the police statistics and look at the word grooming gangs because it's not categorized like that. They have created this word, not created it, but you know what I mean. They've coined this term to associate it with British Pakistani men. And you know what? it's like the media's fallen for it because the coverage of this topic by BBC, Laura Koonsberg, I watched it by ITV. They keep using the words grooming gangs and British Pakistani men repeatedly in the same sentence, when actually the wider conversation needs to be about everyone. And now that term is now used synonymously with anything, and now people just think of British Pakistani men. Am I wrong? I don't know. I'm curious. Am I wrong?
No, I agree. Vicky, you are absolutely bang on. When asked what he meant about grooming gangs, it could have also been because of those groomed into, e.g., county lines. That's exactly what Sadiq Khan said.
Yeah.
And Susan Hall went, country lines? Like, she had no idea what the fuck she was talking about.
Can you explain the county lines thing?
You do that quickly while I go through the
You're
rest of the
passing it off to me because I don't fully understand it. That's why I'm confused what it means by county lines. Is it to do with the idea of like things that come over from in and out of London? I'm confused by that term myself. But I actually, when we predicted yesterday that this was actually going to be a topic, I specifically went onto the London Assembly's website and actually watched this clip of Sadiq Khan having an exchange with Susan Hall, and she's like, do we have these grooming gangs in London? And he's literally saying like, what do you mean grooming gangs? And she's like, these Rotherham ones. He's basically tempting her, because we don't have the clip, unfortunately. He's basically baiting her to say, just say what you mean. You mean, do we have specific British Pakistani grooming gangs in London? Now, if she would have asked a more specific question, like, how many have been arrested? How many are currently being convicted? How many are in jail? That's different. But she literally was like, how many of them do we have in London? What does that mean? How many drug dealers do we have in London right now? You can't answer that question. It's either you want to know how much crime has been committed, how many people have been convicted, and how many people are in jail. She didn't ask any of those questions, but at the same time, I feel like Sadiq could have used that moment to push her a little
in the
bit
clip,
more.
I do slightly critique him. John D. Brazen, I think it's okay to think you're not the best place to speak about an issue, but I don't think we should let trans issues be turned into an issue for cis women when it's not. So I agree with that, but I'm a bit confused about how that correlates to when I said I don't want to go on G News and debate it. I don't know what you mean by that, or is this a complete separate comment? But yes, trans women are not a threat to cis women. Obviously, that is a false myth that's been peddled out of there. Okay, we should probably get onto the clip, shouldn't we?
Yes, because we're about to hit 2 hours.
Yeah.
1,000 new police officers for a specialist knife crime task force. Makes sense to everybody, doesn't it? But this is what happened when the member of London Assembly, Alex Wilson, asked for Mayor Sir Sadiq Khan's support on this matter.
He has only just begun, and already we've seen at least 9 major stabbing incidents on our streets. My team has been working on a budget amendment where we would like to fund almost 1,000 police officers to deliver a targeted knife crime task force. And the way we do this is reduce the cost of your staff budget back to 2016 levels. That will give us the funding to do this. Now, would you encourage members of other groups, perhaps your own group in the Labour Party, perhaps the Conservatives, perhaps anybody, to second that amendment?
As a rule of thumb, I never encourage anyone to work with reform.
What?
What does he say?
I mean,
Mike at the back goes, what does he say? To be fair, when we were playing that clip, it was really quiet because there were speakers behind us. So I was struggling to hear what they're saying. Yeah, so what do you make of Sadiq Khan saying he wouldn't work with reform?
Well, no, I agreed because we talked about this after the show. I agreed with the idea of you should always be looking and to be perceived to be willing to work with anyone to get an issue solved that needs solving. And I'm not saying anyone to the point of completely breaking immorality. I'm not saying we should go like, oh yeah, let's go work with Benjamin Netanyahu because he's such a great guy. Like, I'm not talking about that. Reform, obviously, we know what they want, we know who they are, but at the same time, they have political capital, they have a following. So if working with them, that isn't going to demonize migrants or demonize any groups of people. If working with them is going to help reduce knife crime, work with them, or at least be perceived to be wanting to work with them. However, what he could have done, and he may have done, because they only showed us that part of the clip, it cuts off very quickly, maybe there's more, we haven't checked, he could have followed that up with what you actually say in the clip in a moment. I'm going to do a big spoiler for you, is like the idea of Reform only want to be in the spotlight when it's a hot topic. They actually don't go to a lot of the debates. They don't do many other things which actually would make them perceived to be wanting to actually do anything about any of these topics or issues anyway. What are you laughing at? Dawn. Dawn, I can't see from here.
Dawn looks like she stepped in baby shit in this frame. Unfortunate. Pausing.
Unfortunate pause. Sorry, 5 seconds left on rant. He should have followed up with just the idea of like reform don't care either, and he should have added some substance to that instead of just stopping there, because this can be absolutely weaponized against him.
I know this is obviously going to confuse people because we're actually crossing two different issues here, but John DeBrazen said, when the trans issue first became a thing, women in my Labour CLP were telling men it's not their place to talk in favour of trans people. And I think time has shown they're wrong. So it's not necessarily about, like, I don't want to go on GB News and talk about because I am a cis straight guy. It's that I am absolutely happy to talk about trans issues and debate people. I don't personally feel that comfortable going on GB News to talk about that specific issue, as opposed to maybe if it did come up in a panel show, which I can't foresee. But like, I don't, because I think I'm okay about debating this issue, but I don't think I'm good enough that I would do trans people justice. Now, having said that, I agree that no, you do not need to be a woman to talk about trans issues. You can be a cis straight guy and talk about it as long as you're good. Now, maybe I'm downplaying myself, but I don't know if I'm good enough to do that. And if I'm not good enough to do something, then I feel like that I should just take a step back.
Well, but the thing is as well, we're almost like falling into a trap that's been set for us years ago. Trans issues are not just about women. And this is part of the problem. I know most of the talking points, 99% of them, are about how it affects women, but that's what almost needs to be reclaimed as well, because people forget about trans men, and vice versa. Like, the topic is way bigger than what they're trying to weaponize it to be. And I feel like if you are a man in this conversation and you're having it, that needs to be also reminded of. And I think that is your place as a man, to remind people of trans men too, and issues that they might face, and culture wars that are raised around them, which are completely ridiculous and completely inappropriate. But trans issues affect everyone. They do. And I think everyone should be speaking on them. But again, it's about wanting to do it
as Rachel has pointed out, and I think actually, like, this is where the left, including us, so I fall into this trap, is that, like, we forget about trans men.
Yeah.
And, like, until Rachel brought it up, we didn't mention trans men. Obviously, the right don't talk about trans men because it's easier to attack trans women because they intrinsically believe that they're trans-identifying women, so they just call them groomers. But yeah, it's true. Trans men exist, and their arguments fall apart. But yeah, we need to fucking speak about it more. So it's a very fair point from Rachel. But we can't keep crossing the issues because we're talking about knife and grooming gangs. So we are going to continue the clip.
Rule of thumb, I don't encourage anyone to work with reform, even when we're talking about kids dying on our streets.
Unbelievable.
I just, any case, I'm sorry, I just think that was the most astonishing thing I'd ever heard. And that was then compounded when Susan Hall asked a question about grooming gangs. And let's face it, if you don't know what a grooming gang is by now, then I don't know what rock you're living under, but it's not a nice place. And Sadiq Khan refused to acknowledge what a grooming gang even was. That also was equally shocking. Well, I've still got Mike Parry and Curtis Daly with me. Mike, what do you make of what you've just heard? One day for Sadiq Khan. I'm sorry, I think he should have got the sack over that.
Well, it's a complete rejection.
Is Dawn saying he should have got the sack for saying that he didn't know what he was asking Susan Hall to clarify what a grooming gang was, or she's saying Sadiq Khan should have got the sack for saying he wouldn't work with reform? Because either way, he was elected. You don't sack people who was elected, so that's just a non-point, isn't it?
And also, it is their side of the aisle, quote unquote, who are like are more unwilling, in my opinion, historically not wanting to work with other sides. I do think the left are in general better at it, obviously with the failure of Sadiq Khan here. But again, because I know I mentioned previously, again, the Susan Hall clip relating to grooming gangs, it was just the weirdest back and forth. And why bring it up if you're not going to show the clip? But they probably would have clipped it in a certain way anyway. But she's not asking a specific question. She's like, do we have grooming gangs? And it's like, what do you mean? people arrested. And actually as well, after like a big back and forth, he actually starts explaining about how different districts have a different way of measuring it, and we have different amounts of people who get arrested in different months, and he actually knows the numbers, but they've only focused on the original questioning of him pretending to not know what grooming gangs are, which he's not doing. He just didn't play the game very well, I don't think. He didn't play the game very well.
I mean, I'll let myself speak for myself in a minute, and then I'm going to respond to that.
Getting ahead.
That's weird. That's an inception. Tessie Pup got invited to go on Jeep News by a producer who mistakenly thought I was an expert on BBC, missed the message, and chance to go on and see how long I could talk nonsense before they caught on and cut me off. What was that clip from years ago on the BBC?
The guy who went on, yeah, it was like that. He was like he was a black guy, wasn't he? And he came on camera, and he thought he was there for an interview, but they thought he was the guest, and they put him on camera.
And then he was and fair play to the guy. He was trying to, he was trying to like sort of go with it, and they're like, he's not the guest, and like, yeah. Legendary clip. I think you guys all know what I'm talking about. Okay, let's carry on.
Of our democratic process, isn't it? If you're supposed to be leading London, then surely you're supposed to work with every member of the London Assembly, and to single one out and say as a rule of thumb I don't work with you, outrageous, utterly outrageous. But I intensely disapprove of Sadiq Khan and the way he's run London. As Alex there said, the numbers of people he employs has doubled since he got in 2016. His budget has doubled 2016, but still we can't seem to find the money to introduce proper policies on the streets to stop children killing each other. And let's be absolutely clear here what it's all about. It's all about a lot of black children fighting other black children and killing them.
This is again. I can now make my point more relevant because I think this is the only place after Curtis came out of the studio, because I was across the road having a cheeky swift one, and after Curtis came out, you know, how did you do? But he did amazing. Of course he did. But I said the only place where I think like we could have specifically had a really good chance to bring this up is this idea of the focus on London and Sadiq Khan and knife crime and black kids and racialising this crime. Of course, there are many black kids in London who are doing knife crime. Why? Because there is more of them. And as we know, actually, according to much of the data, there are more black kids in London who are in poverty. And if you actually then drive out of London and go right up to loads of different areas like Hull, you can go to the West Midlands, you can go to multiple places in the Northeast, which are very, very white. We're talking 95, 96, 97% white, British, low immigration area that have historically sometimes higher knife crime rates than London. In some years, just lower. It obviously changes all the time. So we constantly focus on London because of someone like Sadiq Khan, and also on top of that, because people love to racialise this issue, because we're never going to fix it if we keep racialising it, because it is not a racial issue. And obviously you do bring up
so I can hear that clip without my skin crawling so racist. Not surprised you felt off balance by that curse. Yeah, I felt really off balance because we actually prepared a lot for the racial ethnic angle, but that was with grooming gangs, and he did throw me off, and I'm ashamed to say that I don't push back on that specific point, because I was pretty fucking taken aback. I was just thinking, fucking hell, he's gone and done the black and black crime. The thing is, though, it's very hard to debate this because this is a wider discussion. I haven't looked at the statistics, but it might be the case that there is a higher proportion of black and black crime. But the root cause, what is it? Because people of colour, minority communities, are disproportionately disadvantaged. And of course, Mike Parry and people on the right, their view is it's a culture thing. So unpacking that entire thing, when I first of all prepare for something else, when the discussion wasn't around that, it was like, look, you kind of have to pick and choose where you're going to go with this, because he said multiple things. And given that I didn't prepare for the talking point of black and black crime, I didn't have any statistics in front of me, and I wasn't going to say, well, that's just racist, and then not have anything to back it up. I felt I need to stick to my talking point. So yes, I don't actually say, hold on, why are you saying that? Which again, I think maybe as I do more interviews and TV shit, I'll get used to it, whatever, I don't know. But obviously people want to critique me for that. Yeah, fair enough.
It's also worth noting that Mike Parry has been criticised multiple times in the past for making comments towards minority ethnic groups. There was one time he actually apologised, but there are moments out there where he has made other, not necessarily similar comments, but just comments towards minority ethnic groups which are a bit repulsive.
Yeah, he said some really fucked up shit. Like,
Yeah.
you know, when you speak to him in real life, he's pleasant to you, but like he said the most fucking heinous, disgusting shit I've heard. I think. Anyway, yeah.
And if we had stop and search on the streets of London, I believe that would stop.
Stop and search doesn't work, by the way. It just doesn't work. And yes, it's highly racialised.
Asked to consider a policy for twice a year, for 1 week only, to introduce stop and search to, you know, act as a circuit breaker for the terrible crimes. Only this week we've seen the end of that terrible trial about the little girl in Croydon, 15-year-old, murdered by a boy carrying a knife because of a row over a teddy bear, and yet Sadiq Khan...
Does anyone know what this story is? I mean, have you heard of it? Because but first of all, I have not heard about the story. So again, I didn't refute that or whatever because that's the first time hearing it. Yes, sounds like an anecdote, but yeah, I've never heard that before.
Ask him to name one single incident involving a knife that he knows outside of London. It's because I mentioned this when you were in the toilet, that the people who are in the sphere of a certain news cycle on Twitter, the accounts that are now dominating Twitter, whether it's Vicegrad to what's it called, Europe has been replaced, these types of pages, the invasion of Europe. I'm not saying he does because I don't want to get sued, but I probably follow some of these pages. Maybe, I don't know. However, all they do is see reposts of ethnic people around the country committing crime. That's all it is. There are millions of ethnic people in this country who are non-white, or sometimes they'll throw in the odd person who's got a non-English sounding name, and they'll just repost an article of every time a person who might be black or brown, whatever, committing a crime. And it's reinforcing this idea that there is like ethnic on ethnic crime, or black on black crime, or Asian on Asian crime in the Midlands, or in Bradford, wherever it might be, Leicester. And they genuinely believe with a full chest that this is just a racial issue and it doesn't affect white people as much, and it's just absolutely wrong. And until we change that narrative, we're not going to find any solutions.
Utterly refuses to bring in a coherent policy to try and stop the avalanche of deaths of children on the streets being killed by knives. OK, supposing his view that stop and search is discriminatory, because that's what we believe he thinks. Well, introduce...
It's like, that's what we believe he thinks. No, that is true. Like, stop and search is discriminatory. It just is.
Policy. Come up with something. Don't just sit around and every time a child gets murdered say my thoughts are with the family.
Yeah, which we hear a lot, isn't it? Thoughts and prayers with the family. I mean, Curtis, children will die because of that attitude. This is playing politics, like we've seen with the grooming gangs for a certain extent. People playing politics with children's lives.
Every political party is playing politics. Look, I'm not a Labour voter, by the way. I'm not exactly Sadiq Khan's supporter. Here's what I think he was trying to do, and it's not whether I agree with it. I think he was trying to basically get more information. Like the whole grooming gangs, he knows what a grooming gang is. But Susan Hall, I mean, whoever she is,
This
I
is
mean, she lost to Sadiq Khan. That shows how good she is. But she was saying about grooming gangs, and he said, well, what do you mean by that? Now, of course, the narrative here is he doesn't know what grooming gangs is. I suspect that he was thinking that maybe she meant Pakistani men, and he wanted to say it. And I say it with your chest. If you think grooming gangs is linked to Pakistani men, just say it.
Well, everybody else does.
So he, I do correct him in a minute, but he sort of mistook what I was trying to say is be honest and say it's Pakistani men, and he's like, yeah, because everyone else does. Well, first of all, not everyone says it, but second of all, no. When I say don't be a coward, say it with your chest. I'm not saying be honest because it's a lie. I'm saying like out yourself as a racist. Like, why are you such a pussy? And a lot of a lot of the right wing are too scared to openly say, that's what they use dog whistles, say something that's racist. He kind of misunderstands that, but then obviously, like, we'll go to correct him in a second.
Also, as well, just to note, the tabloid media obviously expressly, is that the right word I'm looking for? Yeah, expressly responsible. Expressly, no, that's not the right word.
Expressively.
I don't know. they're responsible for building this narrative, because every time there is any more than one or two non-white looking people involved in a group-based sexual violence against a child, it will be on the front of the newspaper. There are literally thousands upon thousands of cases which are classed as group-based sexual child abuse happening every fucking year in this country. They will never, very rarely end up on the front of any newspaper. Usually if it's like an extremely large group of white people which happens, then it will end up on the newspaper. But when it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people get arrested for this literally multiple times a week, will not end up on the front of the newspaper. But the second, especially if it's a South Asian gang, a group of people, whatever, it's all over the newspaper. It is an absolute ridiculous narrative. It's the same with terrorism-related activity as well.
Aren't the words thoughts and prayers used after a school shooting so bad example there, Dawn and Michael?
Yeah.
That's the thought that went straight through my mind. I was like, yeah, that's what Republicans say. Oh, thoughts and prayers, but are you going to have any gun control? No. So, like, that's a right-wing thing. So it was a weird, very odd thing to say. Very odd.
And, by the way, yeah, but I mean, you misunderstand. I'm not saying there's an issue with Pakistani men. The data doesn't reflect that. What I'm saying is, don't be a coward and say it. That's why Sadiq Khan
does actually reflect that with the grooming gangs we're talking about.
No, so I've done.
Leaving that aside, that is another debate.
That's a very sneaky tactic, what Dawn did there, which is, I say, no, like Susan Hall, say it with your chest. If you want to be ignorant and racist, fucking say it. Don't be a pussy. And then I say, because obviously, actually, when you look at some of the statistics, I mean, it's inconclusive, the statistics, but from everything I've seen, to me, it just looks like it's completely proportionate. Like, one statistic I've seen is that white people are overrepresented, and I've seen that brown people are unrepresented, but really, it's just proportionate. It's men, right? It's male violence. But Dawn's that tries to say, well, no, actually. And I'm like, no, actually. And then she's like, well, that's another debate. I'm like, it is another debate, but also you can't just say it. You can't say, look, oh, no, actually, there is a problem with Pakistani men. And I say, there isn't, specifically. And she goes, well, that's another debate. You can't do that. You can't throw that out. And I didn't want to end up on the talking point that, okay, yes, there is an issue with Pakistani men. Wasn't going to do that. So I did say, no, that's just not the case. It isn't.
It's another debate, but with the information is actually inconclusive. Some is saying there's an overrepresentation of white people. Some is saying there's an underrepresentation of white people. Vice versa. The information is inconclusive. What I will say, though, is talk about weaponization. First of all, I mean, if I was Sadiq Khan, I would work with anyone, because I am sick of the state of this country.
Absolutely.
This country has gone so far downhill. Yeah,
so why did I say if I was Sadiq Khan, I would work with anybody? Is because the original thing that Sadiq Khan said was, I wouldn't work with Reform.
I wouldn't advise anyone to do it.
I wouldn't advise anyone to work with Reform. Now, the sentiment behind it, he's absolutely right. He's saying, don't work with Reform because they're full of shit and they don't care about this issue. True. Reform do not give a flying fuck about young women and girls. And I will go on to demonstrate this, actually. They don't care. And Sadiq Khan is saying, why am I going to work with people who don't give a shit? However, let's separate the politics and the optics. Here's why the answer from Sadiq Khan was so bad. First of all, you should, even if you don't trust these people, work with them anyway. For one, that shows optically that you're willing to work with people, that you care about the issue, no matter what, and you'll put political lines by the wayside. But two, the more important thing is, call them out on their bluff. Because it works for Reform and the right-wing media to clip Sadiq Khan saying, we're not going to work with Reform. That helps them. If Sadiq Khan says, yeah, let's work with Reform, and then call them out on their bluff and see if they actually do anything. Now, I suspect they would frustrate the process because it's a political issue for them, not something they actually care about. It's a political wedge. They're weaponizing it. So Sadiq Khan should have said, yeah, I will work with them. And then when they eventually frustrate the process or not actually take it seriously, he can then point out to Reform and saying, look, Reform are not taking this seriously. I said I want to work with them, then doing fuck all. But by turning around and saying, I don't want to work with Reform, that is fucking red meat again for these people, because it's like Sadiq Khan doesn't care about grooming children. I mean, like Dawn Neeson, which again I think like last show I was on, she was quite kind of fair. This show she was way more biased, saying that like Sadiq Khan has blood on his hands, and how many people could die between now and whenever because he refuses to reform. I think that is like borderline incendiary.
Yeah.
And I think not that GB News will, but like Sadiq Khan should have the right to reply for that. Did I say that on the show? No, because I'm not fucking Khan's spokesperson.
I think it's worth
Your
noting.
battery's exhausted now, so it's not the heating; it's because it's ran out of battery.
No, it's because I unplugged it because it was getting too hot.
We'll have to plug it back in again.
But because the temperature should be fine now. Oh my god.
It's back to the chin.
We should play a drinking game like every time my camera goes off. We're almost done anyway.
Yeah. Back to the chin cam. Fucking hell. Do you guys enjoy the unprofessionalism of this? Maybe we should like, if we ever get to like 100,000 subscribers, do we keep this up or do we delete it? I don't know.
Right, it's on charge. Give it a few minutes.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll wait for the camera to come back on to go for the rest of the clip. We'll go through your comments. Again, I know we've always gone for it, but let's dedicate
Drink
this.
a beer.
Do I?
Well, yeah, because you're drinking beer.
Okay then. Let's dedicate this bit to the chat. I'm just going to pick them at random. Nobody in this country prays anyway, except maybe Muslim people. Lol. British Christianity is all dog whistles and lack of church attendance. I'm not sure if I understand that comment.
Say it again?
Nobody in this country prays anyway, except maybe Muslim people. Lol. British Christianity is all dog whistles and lack of church attendance. To be fair, there could be a reply to someone else, but
okay.
I'm not sure what that means. I'm sorry.
Try now?
Yeah. We're off chin cam. I always say the majority of... Well, should I move, like...
What's if you got your arm around me?
It's just I want to move... Okay. I say the majority of Asian men are not in grooming gangs in the same way not every white person, not every white male isn't a rapist, even though most rapists are. Okay, so it was saying, yeah, like... again, this is a talking point I don't think I actually ended up saying, which is that... Because we didn't actually talk about the statistics that much. I thought we were. But the point I was going to make on GB News was the majority of groomers, the majority of people who commit sexual violence are white men. Now, you won't hear me ever say there's a problem with white men. I'd say there's an issue in society and maybe an issue with male violence. But you wouldn't hear me banging on about what's the problem with white men. So I would say it's contradictory then when people say, well, what's the problem with Pakistani men? Like, I don't want to hyper-focus on someone's race because it does a disservice. Because, of course, there are people of colour who commit these acts. And if I say, well, what's the problem with white men? I'm ignoring people of colour who do these acts. And vice versa. Someone else then says, I only care about those who commit the crimes if they're Muslim or they're South Asian or Asian men or Pakistani men. Then they're ignoring the overwhelming majority of white men. I care about not 3% of the country, I care about 100% of the country. Did I get to make that point? No, I didn't.
But it's also really important to note that these people are only banging on about ethnicity based on this, not because they care about the victims or they even care about tackling it. It's because so they can use it as a weapon. That's exactly what they want to do. They want to use it as a weapon because it thinks it vilifies things that they believe in. They want it to be this group of people. They want an overrepresentation so they can use it to enact their little bits of... Can you say what? Can you say what here?
What supremacy?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is YouTube, not TikTok.
I don't know. Oh, sorry, guys. TikTok is very censory-ish.
And also, if the show gets demonetized because you said white supremacy, fuck YouTube. Say it.
Yeah, but
say it.
This is what I mean. They want it to be true. They don't care about the victims. They say they do. They don't. They want to use this to vilify their ideological beliefs that some people from some cultures, whether it's based on religion, skin, culture, whatever it might be, are below us and we're better than them. And this proves their point.
I know Flo's saying you're replying to someone else, but I thought it was actually good to bring up. I heard there was a synagogue near the BBC in London where they pray for hours, even 2 hours after the service is over. Apparently a march had to be cancelled due to that. Piety?
Sorry, let me read it.
Piety?
Piety.
Sorry. Yeah. So there's
Is it piety?
piety. There was what was that headline you saw? LBC came out with a really bad headline because obviously there was issues with the Palestine Solidarity campaign with the march today, and police were making loads of excuses. They were literally working with the border deputies to try and restrict the movement on the Palestine march. They basically wanted these people to cancel the march, which obviously they said they're not going to do. Now, the police were saying, well, you can't do this specific route because you're near a synagogue. And two reasons. One, other marches are allowed to go on this route. And two, standing up for Palestinian people is not fucking anti-Semitic. Tell all the Jewish people who stand in solidarity with the Palestinians. Again, it's
There has also
bullshit.
been no related incidents on synagogues related to any protest to the Palestinian Solidarity
Yes.
group. None at all. So there is no precedent.
'Cause
to
there
say that
wouldn't
could
be, would
happen.
there?
Exactly, there wouldn't be.
Yeah.
But with the people who got arrested, just be specific about what LBC did, is like their headline was, Palestine protesters, what was it, like, arrested due to controversial march near synagogue or something like that. So you would think that if you're going to open this article, you're going to see people breaching the order which said do not go near the synagogue, and that's why they got arrested. That's not why they got arrested. They got arrested because they weren't supposed to go past Trafalgar Square, and they did, and they refused to move, and they got arrested. People can argue about whether the rights and wrongs of that another time, but you would expect to open that article and see that protesters went to the synagogue. They did not, and LBC clickbaited the article to make it look like they did.
Complete misinformation because they're trying to say it was anti-Semitic. That's exactly what they were trying to do. There you go. It wasn't cancelled. It went ahead. The synagogue was quite far from the BBC, which they were laying flowers at, and there were clashes with the police. So we wanted to go to the Women's March straight after GB News, but by the time, because the tube took so long, by the time we got to the Women's March, it was kind of dissipating. And then the Palestine March was also kind of dissipating, so we weren't in the thick of it. So we just saw it sort of branch off, didn't we?
Into the thick of it? Sorry. That's a TikTok song.
I personally love the juxtaposition of these really serious topics, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, chin cam. Chin for the win.
I'm sure she's used to your chin cam view. That's not a dirty joke. It's because you're taller than her.
What does your shirt say?
Oh,
Or was it me?
my shirt doesn't say anything.
Okay, well, if you're talking to me, it says... What does that say?
Sweet tooty moments or sweet tooth moments.
I didn't buy it for that. I just bought it because I wanted a new grey hoodie. And I look kind of like that. I'm assuming you're talking about this shirt, or is it?
Well, mine doesn't say
I don't
anything.
know.
Mine's Timberland.
Again, camera goes and mic goes funny.
Interesting.
No, because okay, so Vicky, when the camera goes off, Lewis gets up to the teleprompter. The teleprompter's not on, but he goes up to the camera and then he's speaking. So you're probably hearing him echo.
Yeah.
Yes, there you go. Yeah, ooh, yeah. The mic issues are after Lewis walks off because he's speaking, and it's really okay. Wow, 3 hours. That's asking a lot.
What, 3 hours?
Is that for us? Because there's. You might have to, you might be more up to date with the news than I, but the proximity thing was sarcasm, as I pointed out a few times on other streams. But I should stop probably bringing up comments when you're just having a chat. Let's go a bit more up to date. Lewis said it right. Means being very devout. Oh,
Yeah, piety.
piety.
Yeah, piety.
Sorry, I've not heard that word before. That's
Yeah, someone can be like pious as well. It's pious and piety is the same thing, isn't it? Like pious or is pious another word? No, pious and piety. Yeah. God, I'm bad.
It's when he comes back to the sofa, not when he's off screen.
I
don't know. Then I don't know. But
Guys,
will-
we're sorry. Do you know what we need to do at some point? Is like when we have a bit more money, we actually need to hire like an actual sound engineer. Obviously, we can't.
How can you afford that?
No, not permanently. One day we will have a full-time sound engineer. But what I mean is like to help train us.
Okay, yeah.
To like really make sure that we've got like the best audio and all of that. Obviously, we know how to do it in certain ways, but it'd be nice if we were like popping up in a location somewhere to make sure that we know how to like really fully.
It's streaming that's the issue. Like we can make high quality recorded videos, but when it comes to streaming, it's suddenly like That's it, out the window.
I'm sick of crime. I'm sick of knife crime. But we can't pretend that reform aren't jumping on a bandwagon either, because I think reform
Like
don't
trying
care.
to stop knife crime.
No, because think about it. This is a political opportunity from reform. And I'll tell you.
Like, that was a bit biased. Like, this is such a reform network, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
she was like, I said, well, I think reform are playing a political game here. She's like, what, by stopping knife crime? Like,
No, but even go back 10 seconds. Can you actually press like the back button on the thing, like so it doesn't go all the way back? Can you do 10? No, it's fine. No, because what you do here is because she's about to interrupt you, because she wants to stay on that point, but you immediately go to the point that you're about to make. Press play.
Because I am sick of the state of this country.
Absolutely.
This country has gone so far downhill. I'm sick of crime. I'm sick of knife crime. But we can't pretend that reform aren't jumping on a bandwagon either, because I think reform
Like
don't
trying
care.
to stop knife crime.
No, because think about it. This is a political opportunity from reform. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you
knife crime.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why.
children being
I'll
killed.
tell you why. Don't
tell you
interrupt me. I'll tell you
why.
why. Because
don't interrupt me.
Don't let them stop you.
Yeah, how many times again did he interrupt me? And I
Yeah.
think, and by the way, this is what, like, I didn't even realise I said that.
Well, actually, let's get to the next point because I think it's really important.
there was a debate last week about violence against women and children. Do you know how many Reform MPs turned up to that debate? 0. There were 15 debates in total. Richard Tice turned up once. Not a single Reform member went to the other ones. So I think it's a political opportunity.
Well,
now that
they
doesn't
haven't
mean
got many members.
that doesn't mean
They've
that
got many
Labour
members.
MPs. That doesn't mean that Labour aren't at fault here. I think the real issue, because you brought race into it, you said there's an issue of black on black violence.
Yeah.
The real issue is austerity. We've had years and years
Curtis,
of school closures. We've had years and years of community centres closed down. These kids got nowhere else to go.
Curtis,
so we need a holistic policy rather than just
Don's
looking at
not
afterwards.
practiced austerity. He's doubled his
I'm
budget.
going to have to finish that one.
Yeah.
So if you didn't hear that bit at the end,
Seems like when you get into a point though, she's like, oh, we gotta move on now.
yeah, that happened the last time. Mike Parry doesn't understand austerity. So I said,
Yeah.
the issue here is austerity. He goes, well, Sadiq Khan doubled the amount of workers. And like, okay, doing something, spending a little bit more money in the last year or two doesn't end austerity. If you've had 14 years of austerity, right, essentially, in order to reverse the damage, you would have to essentially fucking inject the economy with so much money to, first of all, recover the lost decade of public policy, and you kind of have to I mean, I guess I'm not making sense. I think it's the beer, but you basically you have to spend loads of money to recover from the lost period and then today. If you say, oh, I spent a little bit more money than usual, even though we've had systemic austerity for 14 years, that's not an end to austerity. So what he was trying to say is, well, how can this be austerity when Sadiq Khan pumps more money into policing? Because he's put a bit more money into it. That's not an end to austerity. Obviously, austerity doesn't just mean cuts, by the way, as well. There's multiple different...
Sadiq Khan is not the King of London. He controls certain powers, okay? He has certain responsibilities, more than any other devolved part of the UK, with the exception of Scottish parliaments. That's different. I'm talking about metro areas. However, combined authorities, whatever it is, he's not in control directly of actual full education budgets. He does have things that he can put towards education, but in terms of the actual national budget, right, that's completely out of his hands. So if he's got schools failing all across London or going downhill because you've got, instead of having 20 kids in a classroom, 10, 14 years later, you've got 30 kids in a classroom. Oh, and every lesson you can't have a teaching assistant. Oh, and also the breakfast club's been shutting down. All of these extra layers. These are all things out of their control. So a problem that may have been created, 10 years ago, right, by a person not having access to these resources, and they've, been groomed down a path of crime or whatever it might be. That is not Sadiq Khan's fault directly. That's what you mean when it comes to this idea of every single system is failing. And that's when you just focus on education, and when you think about everything from the prison system. We're putting people in prison not for long enough as well. When I say not for long enough, meaning they're being released really early without any rehabilitation, without any good programs, and then you combine it with education, and then you combine it with cuts in policing and everything else we're going through when it comes to the cost of everything, the cost of rent, the cost of housing, the cost of food, people working more jobs, longer hours. When you combine all of these factors together, which are out of the control of Sadiq Khan, and then he gets blamed for it. It's absolutely ridiculous. And then he has to fight the storm that's created by that, which is been set off on a trajectory years before he was even in power, and then it finally hits him. Oh, it's your fault. It's your fault. It's fucking ridiculous.
Well, so Andy Carter said Khan can't reverse austerity by himself anyway. Exactly. It's crazy. The entire government instituted austerity over 14 years, but one guy can reverse it, and he's the mayor of London. He's not the prime minister. Ridiculous. Flo Snake, yes, you gave me your number, so I'll give you a call, and please help us.
Yeah, we're not ignoring you. When I was talking about getting help, it's not that we don't want your help. I just mean like we need like somebody who's gonna really help us regularly, probably like an in-person thing that we'd be willing to obviously pay money to in the future once we have more money.
But I'll give you a call. Jacqueline, Curtis, do you ever predict what the other side will say before you go on a show? Absolutely. I feel like we could talk about this for a while. So let me get a bit more comfortable.
How far into the show are we right now?
I think
Just
we're at the
curious.
end.
Just curious.
Wait, let me just...
2 hours 30, okay.
I've run out of time on.
But it's a disaster all across the board, and every political party is
Thank you very
is
much.
included in this.
Yeah, I was like, oh, every political party is kind of complicit in this. Right. Let's do... What's the time? It's 20 to 11. Can we do like a 15-minute like breakdown and chat? Or
Yeah, throw some questions in.
But I want to go back to this and let's get rid of GB News for now. I want to set this on the table, but I think all the cable's in the way. Is there a way to...
Oh, what do you need, sorry? You want to
I
set it on the
put that,
table?
no, I just want to put that on the table because...
Yeah,
Yeah, but this...
just lift it up.
Okay. I want to get comfy. Oh, shit.
Hey, you guys!
Um...
I look tiny now compared to you. I'm just slouching. I'm taller than him.
Are you? I'm
don't
pretty
know.
sure we're the same height, but...
We're both 5 foot
Right,
tall.
so this is a really good question. Do you ever predict what the other side say before you go on the show? Oh, 100%. So just like the last show, I came down to London. I had Lewis, I had Cog, I had Helena, and we were going through not just what the topics could be, but we were going through the right-wing talking points. We were predicting what they were going to say. Now, last show, we were, even though we knew the topic of trans people wasn't going to come up, we were wondering if like they wanted to throw in a curveball, and like someone goes, "Oh yeah, you want high tax on the rich, but what is a woman?" Now I didn't know what to expect, and obviously for this format, the weekend show, it probably wasn't going to be the case, but I didn't know. It was the first time, so we wanted to go through every single stupid right wing playbook. And obviously this time we didn't expect like, oh, what is a woman going to come up? But we still thought, okay, because I knew I was told about this a week ago, right? Usually you get a couple of days, but they gave me like a week in advance, and I knew straight away it was Mike Parry. So of course I YouTubed him. I want to find out, like, I've obviously seen him before, but I want to see how he does in debates. What's his typical talking point? And yeah, we will try and predict what they try and say, so you don't get thrown off when you're there.
But I think as well, like, I've seen it a lot in terms of, like, this type of character. I said, because I've seen him before in clips, but again, the only way I can summarize him is just like, it's my uncle's Facebook page. It's like when some random, like, text meme comes up, which is like, oh, back in our day, we used to dig our own coal. He seems like the epitome of that type of person. Because most of his viral clips, especially on GB News, it's all about, like, attacking the young people. And I saw one clip of him as well, which I thought was really funny. I don't know if you saw that one, where he's like, my dad, volunteered for the war. It's like, I wish somebody would have said to him, but you fucking didn't though, did you? Why are you weaponizing what your dad did to try and demonize young
These people are so damn soft. What was the war you fought in? Like, you're 55 years old. You're not fucking 90,
He's
are
like,
you?
my dad served. He was in the army for all these years. Like, don't weaponize your dad's experience.
I find this quite funny. Alyssa says, the comments on the live stream of the show were absolutely outraged when you said, don't interrupt me. Apparently that was rude. Well, I didn't interrupt him a single time, and every segment he interrupted me multiple times. So yes, at the end I was going to turn around and say, don't interrupt me, because that's all he fucking did.
Yeah,
like, I had the grace to sit there, let him okay, all right, there were a couple of stories that we like agreed. Like, again, just like last time, there wasn't too many disagreeable things. But on the things that I really disagreed on, I fucking let him say it, because I don't need to interrupt someone. I'll let them speak and say my piece. But again, obviously, if you go onto the GB News website or their YouTube channel, of course the comments are just going to be like, "Well, it's got turn left in the name. He's got blonde hair. We hate him."
Someone on their Twitter calls you spaghetti head.
They said, "Go back to Bristol, spaghetti head." I was like, "Well, at least they didn't say go back to your own country."
And they
But-
spelled Bristol wrong. They put
Did they?
they put Bristle with two S's.
Bristol, yeah. So of course, if you go on like online and you go on YouTube or GB News, yes, they're going to be like just right wing idiots. But obviously, TV is going to be slightly more balanced. But yeah, I do find that funny that apparently I was rude when I said don't interrupt me when he literally interrupted me every
Constantly.
single time, and I did not interrupt him once.
Oh, sorry.
Well, I'm
I thought you were about
sorry.
to get another comment up.
I am doing that, but like.
Oh, yes, I completely agree. No, but he's a shouty guy. Not shouting. He wasn't necessarily shouting. He's just
5'4".
No, we were joking.
Lewis is 5'1".
Yes.
Yeah.
Little man
Anyway,
energy.
sorry, I interrupted you.
Actually, I'm 6 foot, 183 centimeters, which I think is like just over 6 foot technically. You tell me. Yeah, no, so he's a bit shouty and he's very interrupty. I don't necessarily think, actually watching him today, I don't think he does it to like necessarily be bad faith. I feel like his arguments are terrible sometimes, but what I mean is like he just seems like he wants to get his point across because he's so desperate to say it. At the same time, I don't necessarily think he's doing it in a really
No,
terrible
because
bad way.
I interrupt people all the time.
Yeah, you do.
There you go. Do I?
No.
Oh, but I do. I interrupt people all the time, and I can't help it. If we're having this is what's kind of strange, actually. So on TV, I guess because I understand this is someone I have no personal connection to. He's a political opponent. We're on TV. I didn't even feel like, oh fuck, I need to interrupt. Oh, and I find myself interrupting. Like I can sit there, they can say the most outrageous things, and it's sort of like, oh, okay, whatever. If I have a debate with friends and family, I can't help but interrupt because I feel like
Yeah.
it's more emotional, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know? So like interrupting people isn't rude. It's just a thing that happens. But it's also okay to then say, "Don't interrupt me." That's fine. I didn't think he was rude for doing that because I do that all the time.
But
But of course,
has the camera gone off?
yeah. How?
It's
battery
on
exhausted.
charge.
Your camera.
Chin
is
cam!
not-
Chin cam!
Chin cam.
Well, we have been going for 3 hours.
Chin cam. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. We were talking for ages, and I could see why we've lost like 15 viewers. I had the thing switched off. I was talking for so long, and you just saw silence. Thank you so much to those that stuck with us through this terrible, terrible, unprofessional stream, but kind of funny.
I'm opening the window because I'm sweat stressing.
I can't believe
sweat
it.
stressing.
They still can't hear us. What did we say? Did we say anything interesting when the audio was off? Okay. I can't get over the level of professionalism tonight. Really excelling yourselves. Yeah, we've been really, really bad, but I think it's been really funny. And this is going to be a one and only thing though. Like I know I said I want the debriefs to be relaxed, but it's never going to be like this. This is only because we're with you, and I've had a few beers as well because decompressed on the stressful day. I don't know. Why are you getting out of the camera?
I'm embarrassed.
Oh, don't be
I'm
embarrassed.
sweaty and I'm embarrassed. Can people even hear me from here?
No, I want this every week.
Hello. It's just no, because it feels like I'm doing a show off my webcam in 2014. That sounded weird.
Yeah, that did sound weird actually. How old were you in 2014? Yeah.
21?
Alyssa doesn't he need to add the S to the end of that comment, lol.
S?
Let's go back to Alyssa's comment quickly, because what does she say? I'm scrolling up because I need to see this comment now, because I don't know what you mean. No, that's not the lefty twat. We've already seen that one. Thanks for that, by the way.
Maybe why don't we get towards...
I can't even get over the level of professionalism tonight, really excelling yourselves. I don't know what you mean.
It's sarcasm.
No, I know about that, but the comment afterwards.
Oh.
We've really fucking just lost our shit, haven't we?
We've lost it. Maybe we should wrap up and let people go to bed.
Yeah. Okay. If I want to read this comment, this is a stream to remember. To be honest, you guys always try to look so professional, but we all know just a beer away from anarchy. True. To be fair, it's literally been more than one beer. About being professional, Curtis, your memory is even worse than mine. Yeah, I've got a bad memory. I've noticed that we've been on for nearly 3 hours and we haven't plugged anything.
Well, yeah, we've plugged ourselves just by being brilliant and terrible.
No, but not like the money
Lost
side.
subscribers today.
Yeah, I wonder how many subscribers we lost. No, I mean, actually, even though today was kind of a weird one, we are serious in actually building a leftist media organisation. And please, I mean, we'll definitely sort a lot of the tech issues, but please, if you can, please go to turnleftmedia.co.uk/support. There, don't do it. There you can support us monthly via Patreon, or you can give us a one-off donation. That would be really good. No, Rachel, there's not going to be a pillow fight time. Unless you drop like 500 quid, maybe it'll be something. But no, seriously, obviously, wow, fucking hell, okay. Just as I said that, we've had Andy Carter, gifted Turn Left, 5 Turn Left memberships, and Dominic Jones, gifted 5 Turn Left memberships.
Why?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. But yeah, obviously, engaging with right-wing media is, for me, I think, it's something I personally think should happen. When I say should happen, I don't mean like other people should do it. Only me myself. But we're also trying to grow. We want us to be on the map, you know.
Yeah.
Because the bigger we grow, the more we can serve our audience. The more we can serve the working class. The more we can serve left-wing ideals, and minorities. So if we have to get in the trenches and do a bit of dirty work by going on some mainstream media platforms, I think it's something we've got to do. But I want to say thank you to so many people who've stuck with us for years, who've joined this year. I want to thank so many people who joined us today. It was a really random stream, really, really silly and stupid. But, I mean, you've literally stuck with us for 3 hours, and half of it was the camera going off. Just utter silliness, but I feel like once in a while you kind of need to de-stress and have a stupid, silly stream because I think we are, for the budget we have, are kind of professional when we can be.
Yeah. Well, we're growing as well. Like, there's like, we've upgraded some tech recently and trying to do a bit more. And like some of the tech that we're being used today is still quite new, especially to me. So as soon as you know how to use it more and a bit better, then we'll be getting better at it. It's just a case of like this was actually quite a last minute thing that we decided to do.
Yeah.
This setup, and that's the reason why.
What'd you say?
That's the reason why it's like this.
Yeah.
I'm just one of those people who like get embarrassed almost. Not because it's
Yeah.
not because it's horrifying, because I don't know. I'm just like, I'm the type of person who's like, oh my god, I left a hair in my sink and somebody's used it. Somebody's used it. What are they going to think of me?
Do you get embarrassed by leaving a hair in your sink?
No, but it's like, what if they think it's like I'm just dirty or unclean?
Vicky said, "Will this stream be members only after live?" So we've never done that. I don't think we should. Like, people should be able to access our content. But I'm more in terms of like that we don't feel embarrassed by ourselves. Maybe we should just leave it members only so the other people can't see it. No, I know other people do that and that's great for them. I just think just leave it up for anyone to watch. And to be fair, you never know, right? You never know that no one's heard of Turn Left. They found this stream, went, wow, what a bunch of idiots, but I love them. And then they watched a bit more of our show and then they're Marxists. And I think, job fucking done. Job done. So, no, I don't think we're going to make it members only. We've never done that before. No, anyone can come back to this and please don't clip this as well. Good. I like the relaxed feeling. It says, so the debrief will be very relaxed going forward. If it wasn't before, it isn't going to be as relaxed as this, but it
could be.
I think it was a bit too relaxed, but no. No, we need to make. I don't want to go on a tangent because I want to let you guys sleep, but we were having a discussion about like where's the fun in politics. And fun isn't. It's not facetious.
Yes, Rachel, you can hear my cat trying to get in the door right now, but there's too many wires
How
and
did
things.
how did you hear that?
Rachel can hear it. 'Cause
No,
it's
but like that's
crying.
really quiet. But like humor in politics isn't facetious. It's actually very serious because it's a good way of communicating. Bassem Youssef is very good at bringing Palestine solidarity to the consciousness through his humor on Piers Morgan. Maybe we need to be a bit more jokey and relaxed on some of our evening streams, because we need a bit of fun for the audience, for us as well, because politics is so fucking heavy
It
sometimes.
is. And it is like where appropriate. Like the person who's probably the best at this, like for me personally in the industry, is John Oliver. Like John Oliver, when he managed to deliver a interesting, informative, scary, but also humorous, like rendition that lasted 12 minutes, like a rant, basically explaining Israel and Palestine and the West Bank and how people just come and take people's properties and how the houses are destroyed. But he managed to do it in a way where, he builds up the humor a little bit and then brings it back down to a serious point and then builds you back up against it, plays with your emotions. I'm not saying that's what we want to do, but what I'm saying is that there is ways to even actually bring humor, not because it's funny, but to engage people, sometimes by pointing out, I don't know, like hypocrisies and stuff like that. In politics, it can be done in any topic, I think. Almost any topic.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point as well. It's like, look, it was been fun. Wasn't expecting so informal, but like, enjoy it. Good to see you guys in your natural habitat. Proper streams are great, but you got to let your hair down sometimes. And I think that's, now and again you got to do that. Thank you for enjoying the stream. We're gonna wrap it up. It's 11 o'clock. Again, if you haven't already, subscribe to us. I'm sure you all do. Make sure you like the stream as well, because that also helps with the algorithm. And if you want to come back after the live is done, what is your cat doing? After the live is finished, come back and drop a comment, because again, apparently that helps the algorithm. Please share, maybe not this stream, but share our other content with anyone, your friends or family, anyone who's not interested in politics. Just shove it down their throats. But again, I really appreciate this community we've built up on doing live shows. This channel is gone on for 4 years. The first 3 years, it was just me. It was just video on demand, pre-recorded stuff. But I always envisioned it was going to open up to multiple people. This year we've broken that ceiling and there's multiple people and we started doing live shows. But with live shows, there's a sort of community you build that you don't get from like recorded stuff.
Comment, sorry.
What's Rachel saying? Maybe the cat can fix the tech problems. Jojo, can you fix our text problems? Meow. What does meow mean in cat language? Yes. But yeah, so I'm really happy with the smallish community which will grow off the back of this. But we need to go. So thank you everyone for joining us on this crazy weird 3-hour stint. We're going to be back Monday at 8 p.m. for the Normal Island live. Who's hosting that?
That'll be me.
Oh, it's you.
It's Trump's inauguration. I imagine it will be very American focused. Obviously, the news could change, but apparently Trump's going to be signing up to. I thought my cat was going to be sick then. Apparently, Trump's signing up to 100 executive orders on the first day, so we might be in for quite a ride. So
Insanity stuff.
Insanity.
Real insane. Yeah. So tune in on Monday at 8 p.m. for Normal Island live. It's been Curtis Daly and Lewis Aaron. It's been actually really, really fun. I hope you had a good... fuck me. I hope you had good fun as well. And we'll see you next time.
Ciao.
Ciao.